Good evening, everybody. Welcome to It's a Crime. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Linda. And tonight we have a really special guest. She is behind the scenes in off stage, I guess you could call it. She will be coming in on a minute, in a minute. Her name is Kristen, and she is Justin Evans' sister. Now, Justin Evans is a young 22-year-old man who has been missing since December 2020. He was reported missing on Monday, December the 14th, 2020. And there have been numerous oddities, discrepancies, and unusual events that have been taking place. Now, Justin's family is finally speaking out. And it's been 4 months now since Justin has been missing. And as of tonight, he still hasn't been found. And there has been no confirmation that he has been found. So we're going to have Justin's sister come on with us tonight. We ask for the utmost respect in here. Keep it classy in the comments. I know there's been a little bit of spicy comments already. And my moderators, thank you so much tonight for moderating. And they have full authority if someone is not keeping it classy in here, that they are going to get booted. Now, it's okay to have a differing opinion, but please remember that the family is in the comments and reading whatever you're writing, and just keep it classy and remember that. And thank you for all of you for joining me tonight. Now, for those of you who are new to the case, you can check out the playlist. I have that in the description below. And also, before we get started, I will read this out at the end, but there is a phone number. There's a few phone numbers. If you do have information as to where the whereabouts is of Justin, then please call. Any little tiny detail matters in any moment, really. I mean, anything really that you have or know makes the world a difference. So now we're going to bring Kristen on in. And I want to say also that it's going to be difficult tonight to read every single comment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Kristen in. We're going to have a little chit chat. We are going to talk about Justin, and then we will get to some comments towards the end of tonight's stream to make it a little bit easier to read and whatnot. So please be patient, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. And here I will bring Kristen in. She's going to say hi, and then we will get into it. So welcome, Kristen, so much here on It's a Crime. Our community and our family here have been thinking about Justin and your family since he has gone missing. So welcome so much. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Linda. And honestly, everybody who subscribes, who's been supportive and sharing Justin's information, is really grateful from me and my whole family, for everybody.
Yeah, we're looking, our hearts are with you and the family. Now, I know there's a little bit of echo in there, and we have tried to fix that a little bit for those of you who are watching. Sometimes I'll echo, sometimes I won't, just so you know, okay? So what we're gonna do first is talk about Justin, and I have a little slideshow that I would like to show you tonight to all of you, and then we will start to chat. So just bear with me for 1 sec. I'm going to share my screen and play that. I'm just going to cue it up. It's just going to take 1 second here. And we'll go from there. Bear with me for a moment while I cue it up. I do need a back office. Okay. Thank you for being patient. Okay. Just make sure you guys can see this. There we go. 1 second. 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 1 second.
Another slobber. Feels like an octopus.
All right. If you need a minute, Kristen, I'll give you a minute, and we can.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you for being here tonight. I know this is not easy for you.
No, yeah, well, it's not easy for anybody. My whole family is not doing well, so.
Yeah. So what we'll do is let's talk about Justin. I know there's some things you want to share. And I do have a couple pics as well we can put up of him while you talk about him as well. So whatever you'd like to do, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of came on here to talk about Justin and the person he was so people can see him for who he was and not just someone who's missing. Sorry. There's been, a few people who've talked about him and gone live, and they just weren't the people who knew him the most. So I just felt like my family kind of had to reach out and tell his life story. So I'm going to kind of go off some pictures from the video that were on there. Some were from vacations and some were just home dance parties in my bedroom. And I have a couple stories from my family members, my Aunt Marge and my cousin, who wanted to share something. I actually just told Linda in the backstage that the ducky pants that are right behind me, those ones were the ones he was dancing around in. Pardon?
The two of you.
Not me, my little sister.
Oh,
I
your
was
little
hideous.
sister. Got you, got
I
you.
mean, she'll hate me for putting that up there, but not really.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Uh, sorry. I have so many stories. It's just keeping myself calm. A few of those pictures were from Africa, where we was our most recent trip before COVID, obviously. And you guys might have seen some pictures on the Facebook page, and even the one that's the front of this video that we were doing is him in Africa, and he's got the lions behind him in the picture. And like, you'd go off-roading and every animal was so close. But the funniest story, I guess, is kind of, he was lounging by the pool, and it's called a bush buck. It's about the size of a white-tailed deer, came up, and they were like walking around the pool, and Justin was just lounging. And knowing Justin, he will reach out and touch it. So we're like praying, don't touch the animal, don't touch the animal. Because in Cuba, when we went there, he was picking up a lizard, a big iguana. He would just pick it up, and we're like, oh, what are you doing? But he loved animals. But no, he actually had no idea it was there. When he got up from the chair, we're like, oh, we thought you were going to touch it. And he's like, touch what? And we're like, the bush buck. He's like, I didn't see anything. Apparently he was sleeping, but we were all scared for him. Anyway.
I have that picture of in Africa.
Pardon?
I have the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, the lions behind him. My mom loves that photo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also one at Halloween that I saw, and I love the picture of you two. I would love to hear the story behind it if you would share that, because I know it was during COVID, right?
Yes.
And I
Our COVID
have
Halloween.
this picture. I'll have to find with yours, but I've heard just the best. Let me just pull that up for you. Here he is at
Yes.
Halloween.
Yeah, he dressed up as a clown part of my Halloween house. So for COVID, we wanted to do a Halloween for the little kids. So right next door, my 5 cousins live there, 13 and under. So the family came together and we built our little cardboard houses, and everyone had to have their own theme. Now, the adults were all supposed to build their own, but I knew Justin was not going to build his own. So I kind of voluntold him to be my clown.
Oh,
But he had a great time. So, I mean, it wasn't really a big deal to him, but at first he's like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, I already bought your costume. And actually, it was kind of annoying because he has a lollipop in his hand. He took all the lollipops, and we had balloons tied around them, but then he put them all in his pocket. So all the balloons got tied up together, and the Halloween thing was about to start. So now we're like cutting all the balloons off and tying them to him so they're not like floating away, you know. But he did that because he was like, well, I'll just hold all of them. But then he just like put them in his overalls. I don't know. Anyway, and they were all tangled up. Even the ones on his wrist, if you can tell, those are the ones that were around all the lollipops. But we did circus theme. So we had cotton candy and caramel popcorn and lollipops. Not that I've ever really been to a circus, but that's what I felt like. But no, he made a very good clown.
you guys had fun.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, the clown ended up at the ice hut, the fishing ice hut.
And he did a lot of fishing, right?
Oh, tons of fishing. He loved it. He recently just got the snowmobile before he went missing. So the year before, Justin and our stepdad, James, would go out ice fishing, but they'd have to walk out on the ice every time because they didn't have a snowmobile or anything. So this year they just got them.
Yeah, because those lakes are huge, aren't they?
Pardon?
The lakes are huge.
Oh yeah, they're very big. Well, they wouldn't go too far, just the lake down the road from us. I think, honestly, I never went with them. Ice fishing stories are all James's. But he loved to fish. He would take all of us out fishing, and I say I would drive us, but and he would spend most of the time fixing everyone else's rods and getting them set up. And I can bait a hook, but I will not take the fish off the hook. So he would run around doing all of that. And I don't even know how much he really actually got to just sit and enjoy the fishing. Actually, in Windsor, the one time we took James has his own kids, 4 of his own, and 2 of them are fairly little girls, 6 and 9, I want to say. I could be wrong. And every time he caught a fish, he would let them reel it in. So he never actually really caught one himself because he would be running around with everybody, and the girls weren't catching anything, and they were sad because they weren't getting anything. So he just let them do it. He was just a good person, and he was having fun anyway. So.
See, there's the echo.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the deal is with that. I heard that about him, that he'd help anybody at any time with anything.
Yes.
And explain a little bit more about that, because even as a child, as an adult, I'm hearing all stories that he just really would love to help. There was some story as well as in the trailer park, I believe he was actually helping people landscape their area or just, and spruce it up.
Yeah. So, well, from when he was little, I mean, he started in my grandpa's shop, more helping out when he first started. He was about 12, and he would help get the worms and the leeches and I think he mostly started with cleaning out the tanks, like taking out all the dead minnows. But then he just kind of kept getting better, and my grandpa taught him a bunch of skills. And by the time he was, I don't even know, 16, 17, he was running the store when my grandparents were away camping for weeks. I mean, I went to school with Justin, and we were in split classes. Our classes were very small. My school was very small. So, I mean, we helped each other out with everything. He was in every class. Except for like 2. And then even when I started high school, he was going to school in Aurelia, and he switched schools to be at my school. So he was always
only a year and a half, right?
Just over a year and a half. Yeah. So I mean, he's always really helped me. I'm a stress ball. He is a chill, relax, nothing ever really bugs him. He has the willpower of, I don't know, if he wanted something, he would do it.
I read that it's so weird that this echoes sometimes and echoes not all the time. I'll ask my question. I'm just gonna try this for a sec. I read something that actually you posted December 30th after he was reported missing, 2 weeks after, and I'm just gonna read this, and then so I'm not echoing, I'll unmute you to talk. So you said, "All I want is my brother to be found. That is my one wish for my birthday. It is all I could ever want. Justin is such a happy, outgoing, loving, kind person with a great sense of humor, and I'm pretty sure sarcasm is his superpower. If Justin was here, he would be the laughter and joy of my day. He is a dorky and goofy guy who loves life and would be here in a heartbeat to celebrate with me. We are only a year and a half apart. We were each other's first best friends, playmates as kids, and we have never grown apart. Please, all I want and my family wants is Justin to be found. If you know or have heard anything, please call the OPP." Again, I have that in the description below, and we will post that at the end as well. So let me just unmute Kristen. I'm so sorry. I just don't want it to be backfiring here. There you go.
Thanks. No, I figured that might help. Yeah, I wrote that obviously on my birthday. It was just after Justin went missing, and I didn't really celebrate. I didn't know how to celebrate. Even New Year's, me and my little sister left before the Happy New Year because it's not really happy. Justin was so much life and so much fun, and I don't know, we just miss him.
It's okay.
I mean, talking about birthdays, I would actually like to read my cousin's thing.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind. Let me just dry my eyes so I can read. Okay, so this is mine and Justin's cousin Lucas. He's 13, and this is actually from his last birthday, so his 13th birthday. So I'm just going to read it. He wrote it for me to read to everybody. So I have lots of memories with my cousin Justin. He used to let me and my younger brother watch anime shows with him. We would all crowd around his tablet together. We all loved it, and Justin did too. Also, when we were younger, we used to play this game where he would be any made-up character from anything, and we would pretend to fight each other with swords and superpowers. When we went camping last June, my brother Parker and I would hang out with Justin and our Aunt Jamie on their site, listening to music, chilling, and eating chips. Whenever I had the chance, I would go biking with him, and he always had so much fun. Justin found a bike trail to the beach, and he would let us go with him. Those are all really great memories with him. On my last birthday, Justin gave me a silly card that showed mine and Justin's slice of cake. We had huge pieces, and everyone else had little slivers. He gave me some money, and I still have that card he gave me. I will cherish all of these memories forever. He is the best cousin, and I really miss him. Just the birthdays. I wasn't there for that, so I actually have never seen this card, but my mom says she has, and it's apparently quite the silly card that Justin drew for them. Whew, sorry.
It's okay.
I'll just actually follow that one with my aunts. So my Aunt Marge also wrote something out. It was also from the camping trip. So this is Luke's mom. So she has 5 kids, so 5 of our cousins. So it's from her perspective. So I have so many memories of Justin growing up. I have already shared a couple of memories on my nephew's I'm sorry, I'm jumbling up my words.
Okay.
Shared a couple of memories of my nephew on our Bring Justin Evans Home Facebook page. He was always happy, go lucky, goofy jokester. It is hard to choose just one memory to share of him, but I will forever be grateful for the summer of 2020. The summer we spent a ton of time camping with Justin, making memories that will never be forgotten, especially by my kids. Like most children, my kids always looked up to their older cousin. My oldest 2 boys went on countless bike rides with him through the campgrounds. He felt so special that Justin let them bike to the beach with him rather than driving with us. Any amount of time they could spend with Justin made them happy. And I think that goes for everyone in Justin's life. My daughter was learning how to ride her bike without training wheels last summer. She wanted her cousin to help teach her, and without hesitation, he did. I can't remember how long he ran behind her, holding her bike up so she didn't fall, but I'm sure his back was on fire. He didn't have to do it, but he did it because that's the kind of cousin he was. Whether it was blowing bubbles with the kids, hanging out listening to music, or chatting by the campfire, he was always happy to do it with them. They loved every minute spent with him. One special moment I will always fondly remember was our first camping trip last summer. I believe I was cleaning up the breakfast mess, and the kids had all left the trailer to find my brother's kids. They all ended up on my sister's site across the road. When I came out of the trailer, I found Justin, Jamie, and all the kids having a morning dance party and was able to sneak a couple videos. These videos showed Justin's fun, loving, goofy personality that he always will be remembered for. So usually I would go on camping trips, so I wasn't actually there for any of those. Because I'm a glamper, and they were trailer camping. I meant tent camping. But actually, I really think my mom had such an amazing summer with him, because James also lost his time off for the summer. So it was just her and Justin camping, and I'd come up for like a day and hang out, but I think they really shared so many special memories. Now, I don't really have one written out for her for the camping trips, but I know they swanked up even though they were tenting, they put lights up in their tents, and they had like a little outdoor kitchen, and she made him breakfast every morning. And the one day I showed up, she's like, I'm not doing breakfast. I'm like, oh, I see who you love more.
And we saw that in the video of your mom dancing with the kids.
Yeah.
Earlier tonight that I played, you could see the little clip of them dancing all around.
Yeah. So apparently they were doing like the chicken dance and the Macarena and stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, like Justin had no rhythm, but he'd still dance.
My husband's the same, no rhythm.
Yeah,
really, I mean, the stories you're telling about Justin, his personality, it's the same thing. I've heard Justin is salt of the earth. He's so helpful, so funny, so goofy, so loving, so kind, and so respectful, and would say if he's not going to be there, or say if he's not going to make it for dinner, or if he's coming to see you, or I've heard all kinds of things about him, and they're all positive. I mean, he's just a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, we're siblings, we butt heads. But even when we'd argue, so say we argued and we went in separate rooms, and then like 5 minutes later we'd come up and be like, want food? Yeah, I want food. We just got over it. We didn't care.
Yeah, I was told you guys are like two peas in a pod.
We are very, very close. Sorry, my phone was making noise. Yeah, I think what helped, we were so close. We had no choice. We were in the same classes all the time. We had the same friends. Even when he switched schools, he just made friends with my friends. So he was just got mixed into my friend group.
And he was just getting into audiobooks, right? And was it you that he said that, or I believe it was you or it was your mom? One of you said that he was trying to get you to read or get into what he was into.
So it's called Aragon. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but he loves this book, and he read all 3 of them, and I'm only about halfway through, but he listened to them, so I say it's cheating. But every time he'd come over, he's like, oh my god, I need to talk to you about it, hurry up, read it. I'm like, oh, just leave it alone. I mean, now I wish I had read it, and when I do read it, I'm gonna wish I could have talked to him about it and heard his favorite stories and his favorite parts, and because he absolutely loved it. Every time he'd come over, he'd bring it up.
And he was listening to this all the time.
Pardon?
He was listening to this all the time.
Yeah, he never used to. Like, he didn't like books before. Not that he couldn't read, he would like read the words and not the sentence.
My husband's the same.
Yeah, so he loved audiobooks because he was like, it was like a movie but it was just in his head and they were talking. And he could listen and do whatever he wanted. You know, he's a tinkerer, so he would tinker with things and listen to his book. And but yeah, definitely over the past, I want to say maybe a year, he really got into his I almost said ebooks, audiobooks.
Yeah, they're great. Sorry, there's just a little bit of feedback for a sec. I don't know what the deal is, but that's okay. We're gonna keep going. From my understanding, like he loved, like you said, he loved listening to these books, and he would go and do it everywhere. And we're gonna touch on the timeline, and we'll get into that weekend and how he does like to listen too, even just in the middle of the night. We'll talk about that. And I'm gonna unmute you again. Just sometimes there's a little bit of echo. Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, we'll get into. Are we getting into the timeline, or can I?
You know what? We can in a minute if you'd like.
No. You brought up the timeline, so I just didn't want to keep going with stories and then have it all.
You do what you need to do, girl. I'm following your lead. One thing I'm gonna bring up that I do, and I have this on a note, and I don't want to forget this, is the paintings that your mom has been doing.
Oh, yes.
They are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, me and my sister are jealous because we've tried painting and we suck, but hers are gorgeous. And some are very emotional.
Yes, I'll bring that up. Is that okay that I bring that one, the latest one up?
Yeah, of course.
I'll bring the latest one here. I'll bring us here. Yeah, this is just a beautiful painting. I think it's in acrylic, and she's done a few that I've seen.
Yeah, this one is very much our family, I guess. Like Justin had just gotten himself a fire pit, and we always camped, and everyone had like their own chairs, like their camping chairs. So I mean, it's really sad, but this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it has your family there, and Justin with his wings.
Yeah, I mean, any fire we have, he'll be there.
Absolutely.
Us, so.
Absolutely. I've read that, and I've heard that it's been helping your mom through painting, just cope with the tragedy that's happened.
Yeah, I think it's really good. She can express some of her emotions, get them out on a canvas. I mean, she bought a puppy, so I mean, she has a little bit of emotional shopping too. But I mean, he's cute. So
yeah, the paintings are beautiful, and I know that you guys traveled, like you said, to Africa and Cuba, and had so many special vacations. And from my understanding, your mom said that you guys went on a huge group of cousins all together.
Oh yeah, that was to Cuba when we were younger. I think Justin was 12, and I'm guessing at his age. And yeah, there was about 18 of us that went, and it was a lot of fun. And Cuba is, I mean, it's a different country, but it's safe. So
Beautiful.
we could just run around, and we could go down to the buddy system. We couldn't go alone, but we could go down to the ocean and back up to the pool where everyone was.
Yeah, just have a great time.
Yeah, actually, a Cuba story my mom has is in the morning she wanted everyone, I don't know about everybody in the family, but at least her kids, to get up and go for shells, like seashells. And nobody except for Justin got up in the morning. So her and Justin, and I don't even think it was that light out. She's got a couple pictures. And the one with her and Justin when he looked very young was from that morning. And he was the only one who'd get up with her. I mean, he's kind of me and my mom are very close, but he's kind of the one, if my mom has no one else that's going with her, Justin's all in. Like the summer, he was like, James not going? I'll go.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so he was always willing to jump in. So,
So, so let's fast forward a little bit.
sure.
Justin grows up and he moves out on his own and then moves in with his best friend.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have been talking about, why did he move out on his own? Which, we get it. I mean, you'll have a chance to explain, absolutely. But it's quite normal for a teenager to want to fly the coop. I mean, I certainly did, and there's a lot out there that they get old enough and they're like, okay, it's time to go out on my own. What is it from Justin's point of view, or your family's point of view, why he wanted to move out?
Well, so I guess small backstory is that before he lived with Bud, he moved out of the house when he was 18. And a big thing is he wanted to be independent. He did want to move out. We are all very close, but we have a very small house. And I have another older brother who also has moved out. But at the time, there were 6 of us living here in a very small house. So he wanted his own space. He wanted to be independent, but not so independent that he was far from home. Like he moved to Aurelia first and lived with a coworker, and that's only 20 minutes from home. So it's not like he didn't come and visit us and stuff. And then he got a job at Bud's work, McLaren Press. And so it just was logical. Bud was his ride. They worked together. He'd already was living with a coworker. So moving out and renting the room that was available at the McKinney's home just made sense. And yes, because people are like, well, why would he want to move out? Because he wanted to be an independent 22-year-old. But he still came home so often, like.
And what?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, and when he'd come home, he hung out with us. He took us for breakfast, like Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and he would just chill and watch Netflix with me all day. He didn't care. He would just do whatever we were doing. If we were all outside, he was outside.
Happy-go-lucky.
Yes, he was so go with the flow, just whatever you're doing, I'm doing it. And you're like, okay.
One of the things we're talking about too is his driving.
Yes.
And how he doesn't drive. But my understanding now is he did have his learners.
So he had his G1, which actually would have expired last month, I think, because we got ours at the same time. The very same day, actually, we went together. But he didn't really take to driving very well. And he did put the van in the ditch once. And after that, he was pretty hesitant to ever drive again. So, and he did tell my mom once, this really isn't like a video game. No, no, it's not. So.
Yeah, I did that too. I crashed the car a couple times when I was 18, or maybe, 18, because I grew up in BC. And at that time, you could get your learners at 16, but, I wasn't allowed till 18 to do this whole process. And I did smack the truck up a little bit. And I think it was twice. Once I backed into something, or once someone pulled the stop sign from the street, and I went through, and somebody T-boned me, and I was very young, glass shattered across my face and everything. And I was so terrified. I didn't drive for like months. And my twin brother and my dad said, well, no, you got to get back in there and drive. But at the same time, I was done. So I can understand if something like that happened to him. He's like, maybe not right now.
Yeah. And it wasn't a pressure to do it, because he always had a ride to work, even if Bud couldn't drive him. I know he had a couple people from work that could pick him up. But I was his taxi. Anytime he called me, Like one time on a weekend he called and he hadn't eaten much, and he's like, Kristen, come pick me up, I'm starving. And it was like 10 at night, and I went and got him, and I drove him, got fast food. Like, he didn't really need it. I was his chauffeur.
I have a friend like that growing up. I don't think he's still to this day, after 30 years or whatever it's been, I don't think he still doesn't have his license. Just some people don't and some people do. And I guess when they really need it, they will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just one of those things. So it's interesting because there's been a couple questions regarding that. So I thought I would ask. So let's go into now, let's talk about the timeline, and then we can go into some other things there. But let's or would you be open to talking about Bud a little bit, because he did live with him, and just to touch on, you know, maybe their friendship, or would you prefer to go on the timeline first?
Either one works for me.
Okay. Well, I have it on my notes here. We'll talk about Bud. Just you know, what was it like? Because they've known each other since they were in kindergarten, right?
Yes.
So what was it like for them? How would you describe their friendship as kids and growing up? And
So I mean, I also have known Bud almost the same amount of time as Justin, really. And their relationship is, they're very close as kids. I mean, Bud moved away for a few years while we were in public school. But if you know Bud, he's a very upbeat, kind of outgoing person. So their relationship was always fun. They were always laughing and joking around. They definitely, I'm sure, had some of their own inside jokes that nobody else would get. I mean, they were always good friends. They, yeah, I don't know. I just mean they'd hang out. Bud would come over and hang out with him. Justin would go over there. Like, they knew each other's families. And I don't know. They just, I feel like big jokesters between the two of them.
so both of them are similar?
Pardon?
Are they very similar in, like you said, jokesters? Is one kind of more extroverted than the other, or?
Yeah. So if you don't know who Bud is, he's a fairly quiet person. He's pretty, he'll stand in the background. But Justin, I think it really helped working in the store when he was younger. New people, he would just talk to them. he didn't care. He'd make, I don't know, any kind of conversation. And I mean, they were different in the way of, Justin's very outdoorsy. Like, he likes to fish, and he loved animals, and he would hunt, but I don't think he ever got at anything. But he would go out. Not really things that Bud does. But when they were hanging out together, they were just, I think, mostly just being dudes,
hanging
out, joking around.
And did they go fishing together?
Not that I know of. I don't believe they went fishing together.
Just more hang out and drive around.
Yeah, I think Justin used to go for a lot of like drives and stuff if Bud was going anywhere. And yeah, I just think they mostly just hung out, went to town together if they had nothing else to do, laugh, make jokes,
go to work.
They worked together. I mean, once you work with someone, you see them like all the time. And what else is there to talk about, I think, sometimes. So, especially like Justin, in a way, like he could talk and talk and talk and talk, but at the same time, he could just listen to his books and chill out. So,
yeah, and too is he liked to listen to the audiobooks. And then also, what struck me is, you know, he lived in this small trailer with, you know, several people. And I could see how it was like a little getaway to go in his little shed and hang out there, listen to books, and just kind of, you know, not that he needed to get away from anybody, but it just made it understanding, how he would want to go in there, tinker, listen to his books, and kind of have his little solitude a bit, right? I mean, it is a small area for 5 people to share in. But my understanding is Kiara, who is Bud's girlfriend, for those of you who don't know, she moved in later, right? It wasn't this. He had lived with Bud, and the family for some time before Kiara came in and lived, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and definitely you're correct with the shed as well. Like he got the shed because there was a trailer that burned down on the lot beside them, and Justin took the time. He cleared up all he just cleaned it all up, took stuff to the dump, cut the grass, made it look nice again. So the owner of the park actually offered to let Justin just use the shed because it wasn't touched by the fire. And actually the shed was full of junk. Like Justin had, I don't have the pictures anymore, but he had sent me pictures of just like all the stuff that was inside. So he cleared it all out for himself. But it's just where he kept, like he had this dream to get his motorcycle license, which terrified me because you don't have any walls around you, but okay. So he had an old motorcycle and he was trying to fix it up. He was not mechanically smart whatsoever. He would actually video himself taking things apart. Well, and he would tell himself what he was doing so that later when he went to put it back together, he could watch the video. Anyway.
That's smart.
Yes. Well, an accident, he deleted it once. He's like, Kristen, oh my God. I'm like, just go to your bin. Sorry, something popped up on my screen.
Okay.
So I'm like, just go to your bin and just re-add it to your thing. And he's like, oh, it's like, I wasn't going to remember how to put any of that back together. So he had his motorcycle out there. It was a spot he could actually have it. Like if he didn't have the shed, he wouldn't really have anywhere to store that kind of stuff. And he had a bike, and through the summer he'd bike around the the trailer park. I almost said campground again. Oh my gosh. The trailer park. So it just gave him a spot where he could do his own thing, listen to his books. And as you said, he was still outside, but just by himself, just relaxing. Yeah. He also wanted to start, there's like a fence that runs right behind his shed. And he was going to start a garden there and stuff. So he was starting that. I mean, I don't know how well it really worked out for him because I've never gotten anything that was edible, I don't think. So, but he was working on it.
Oh, that's the important thing. Maybe he made some videos too on that, or that's smart. I think that's brilliant.
Well, even when we did end up clearing out the shed Easter weekend, and when we were picking all the stuff up, he actually had it like taped and like green tape and like had it written on there like what it goes with. I mean, he was doing it smart for someone who has no idea what he's doing. So
was he very organized person?
With his things, yes. Like if he wanted something to be a certain way, yes, but he also, I don't think, really cared if his bed was made per se. Like
I guess what's important to him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into the timeline starting the weekend before. For those of you who don't remember, Justin went missing sometime around December 14th. He was reported missing December 14th, 2020, only 4 months ago. And we're going to talk about the weekend before because it's my understanding he was at your family's house that weekend. And tell us a little bit about that.
So actually on Friday, which would have been the 4th, I believe, I texted Justin and I was like, hey, mom's making lasagna. Are you coming over tonight? And he put, yeah. So then I said, am I picking you up at 4:30? That's when I'm off. And he's like, yes, please. So that's the last text I have with him. But I picked him up on Friday after work. So I'd have gotten there just after 5, because it's about a 20-minute drive, or just before 5, I guess. And he came over and, we had lasagna. We probably, I don't know what they watched, but he usually at dinner time will watch something with mom, like a movie they both like or a TV show or something. And then he crashes pretty early because usually on Fridays he really tries to stretch how long he's awake for because he wants to enjoy the mornings. It helped right now with COVID. They had extra time off and they've actually wouldn't work the Friday and stuff. So, well, I guess, sorry. Anyway, I don't know exactly the time that he got off that week, but he would usually crash at my house fairly early. He'd have dinner, and then I would say between 7 and 8, he was asleep on the couch, passed out. And then in the morning when you wake up, he'd have his headphones in and be listening to ebooks. And we actually went to Wimpy's that Saturday morning to have breakfast when I finally crawled out of bed. That's actually the last sit down meal I had with Justin was breakfast. And actually this breakfast was kind of silly because he kept trying to order for us. Me and my little sister went and he kept trying to he's like, oh, she'll get, I'm like, stop. And then he's like, well, Maddie will get this. And but it wasn't what we wanted at all. I think he was just trying to be really nice, but it wasn't working. We're like, shh. And then he came back home Saturday, to my home, sorry. And we hung out at the house. I don't remember what we had that night for dinner. I only remember lasagna because we texted it. And then, he would have hung out. We would have watched TV after breakfast. He always wore my duckies in the back. We called them duckies, but they were the pajama pants. He actually took a pair home with him and a Batman pair. So he would just steal my pajama pants when he came over. Anyway, and he would get back into comfy clothes and we would chill and watch TV and have dinner. And then the same thing, he would kind of crash early. And then in the morning we got up. He was home fairly early that Sunday. I dropped him off, I want to say, before noon, maybe 11:30-ish. But we woke up. My little sister loves McDonald's, so we drove to Gravenhurst, which is just 10 minutes away. Mm-hmm. We got McDonald's, and Justin was stuck in the back seat with the dog, and we ate in the parking lot, and then I drove him home, which again, it's about less than 10 because it's on the other side of the highway, or maybe about 10. Anyway, besides the point, it's about a 10-minute drive. And we pulled into the driveway. He got out of the car. I told him to have a great week at work because he only actually worked. He's like, I only worked 3 days this week. I'm like, okay, have a good 3 days. And he opened the door. He's like, okay, love you. Bye. And closed the door. And I've said it a couple times. We are big on saying I love you, but I can't remember if I actually said I love you or just have a good week. I like to think I did because we said it all the time. When he'd call, he would just okay, love you, bye. And I'm like, love you too, bye. Before he left home, he'd always say it. We're big on saying it.
That's so sweet.
So, anyway, and then for my family's rest of the week, they were either, my little sister was in school, and then me and mom and my brother Warren actually work at the same place. So we all worked Monday to Friday. James worked at AutoQuip, which is his job, Monday to Friday. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was there just to
okay.
Sorry, we'll try this one more time here for a sec. Just to rewind a bit back on that weekend, because I believe your mom said, I think she said that you guys put up the Christmas tree that weekend. And also I'd like to touch on the snowmobile as well before we get into the rest of the week. But let's just talk about that first and then we'll move on.
Yes, so you are correct. We did do the Christmas tree. So actually, we did breakfast, and James and my mom went and got the tree because my mom is very particular about her Christmas trees. Me, it could just be a fake one. I don't care. But so they did the Christmas tree. Every trip we go on, we get an ornament that we put up on the tree. So everyone had a couple special ornaments that they put up. Justin always helps with like the tallest things because he's the tallest in the house. I mean, I'm tall, but he's tall. But yeah, he helped decorate and everything. He actually wasn't inside for the lights. Me and my mom had to do it, so I was climbing on the couch to get the top of the Christmas tree. He came in for the decorating of it, like putting ornaments on and stuff. And then, sorry, you mentioned the snowmobile. So is it about the accident, which I put in quotations because it wasn't really an accident. He hadn't really been on a snowmobile before, much at all. Like he was when he was a kid, but this was his first snowmobile. So he just hit the throttle too hard, and he just kind of sent his one half of his body kind of like back. He didn't fall off. He didn't hit his head. He didn't hit his arm. It just swung back, and then the snowmobile stopped. So, like, I'm not saying he didn't get a pulled muscle or anything, but he wasn't like injured per se. So,
right, perhaps a little bit more, but nothing crazy.
Yeah, like, you know, if you get your arm pulled back too far, you'd be like, oh, ow, you know. So I'm not saying like he didn't have a pulled muscle, but
yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like a full-on accident or he flew off of the thing.
Yeah, it's not like he ran into anything. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's great because thank you for clearing that up because I know it had to do with the throttle. I know it was a snowmobile incident. But that makes sense too because he was just starting.
Yes.
To learn, and you said he was going to use it. Him and James were going to go out and use it on the ice and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do a lot of people in the Muskoka area use snowmobiles to jet around the areas? Are you allowed to do that as well? Because I know some places in Alberta, they just bomb around doing that.
Yeah, I mean, not really because I live right on the highway, so not really around my place. But yeah, definitely if you go into like the little town, like Gravenhurst, you can see snowmobilers driving around. So yeah, definitely. I mean, not really Justin's kind of thing. I don't think he would drive around to towns, but definitely to get it on the ice, he would.
Yeah, you just had to start to learn how to drive it, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, okay, so that was the weekend.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know too, Justin, his work is shift work. So he would typically work a midnight to 8 a.m. shift. So that's when Kristen was saying that, he was staying up, trying to push the time on Fridays so that he could stay up so he could be with everybody instead of going to sleep. I know that happens too in our household with my hubby. He's a shift worker. He's a paramedic. And he'll do kind of the similar thing. He'll do his shifts and then kind of push it a little bit so he can normalize a little bit on days off and be able to spend time during the day and enjoy outside. Was that the same for Justin?
Yes, very similar. Like he was off in the morning, so he would usually try to get the nice morning to the afternoon, and then he would crash usually later in the day. Like I want to say 3 maybe, because sometimes I would call him. He wasn't a big texter, so it was mostly calling. And usually about like 6 and stuff, he'd be awake again, and then back to sleep usually after dinner. He didn't sleep well. Even as a kid, Justin couldn't sleep through the day. He couldn't nap, really. He just had a lot of trouble sleeping through the day. So that was a big thing for when he went on midnights, is that he had a lot of trouble sleeping. And he's lost a lot of sleep because he just can't sleep well through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So on weekends, like when I say he'd crash early, he'd be out until like 3 o'clock in the morning. And then he'd wake up because that's how long he could sleep. Like he couldn't stay in like a solid sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, for some people, it's hard to adjust to shift work. I mean, younger people typically, and not all, but a lot of younger people can adjust, and some people can't, like you said, if they're having sleeping issues. But a lot of shift workers have that hard time to adjust on the days off, and then you're rinse and repeating through the month. So I do understand that. So bring us to the week now. So it's still, a week before he's missing. You're working, your family's working. Uh, what kind of do you typically chat with Justin throughout the week? Maybe a text, or is it typically more in the weekends? How did that usually work?
It's usually the weekends. Sometimes like through the week, if I'm not sure if is coming over, I'll message. But this week I actually already had plans for Friday. I was seeing my friends. We are actually about to go back into lockdown. So we decided to go for a dinner on Friday night. So I didn't text him at all. And it's not like I usually would, but just occasionally, like I texted if he was coming over for lasagna. But I would usually do that the Friday of, hey, are you coming over? Because on Fridays the day I would pick him up. So he would either yes or no, So it wasn't, I don't know, not unusual to not hear from him through the week. I mean, if something dramatic happened at work, like drama or, the tea, he would call and be like, oh, Kristen, I have to tell you. But
Yeah.
if nothing exciting happened, it wasn't normal to hear from him through the week. So.
And what about, sorry, it's so funny. It's like a cycle. What about with him being sore? I know a lot of people have given, okay, he's really sore, not so sore, is sore. If he was super sore, is it something that he would contact your mom? I mean, I know I have an 18-year-old son, and I know if he just actually hurt his finger a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I'm the first to hear about it. Would that be something that's typical of that Justin would do, is say something if he's that sore and maybe kind of figure out, oh, should I do something about this, or what can I do about this, or anything like that?
Yeah, so Justin definitely, if he felt, so I've actually heard the same thing kind of through the rumor mill that he was thinking about going to the hospital. But if he was actually thinking about that, he would have called my mom, sorry, because I mean, she's our she's our mom doctor. She makes sure that we're healthy and whatnot. And then, as I said, I'm his chauffeur, so he would have been like, Kristen, I think I need to go to the hospital, right? So definitely, I don't think it was that bad as what it's kind of, I think, become. Um, he never really brought it up. I think once at the house that weekend, he was like, oh, I hit the gas too hard and just threw myself back. And not, as I said, not to say he didn't have a sore muscle, but I don't think it was as severe. Yeah, as severe as I think it's been made out to be. Because he definitely would have called our mom or me to ask. So.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're going through the week, and you guys haven't heard from him, and then the weekend happens. Describe Saturday or the weekend, if you will, from your point of view and your mom's point of view. I know we chatted a little bit before that, but just, from your guys's point of view.
Yeah. So for Saturday, I was actually home with my little sister, and we were baking all day. We made these big, huge bakery cookies. And I did run to Gravenhurst with her to Sobeys, and we got like the baking stuff, but that was earlier in the day. And my mom and James went to Barrie to go shopping. I wasn't there, so their exact locations, I know they went to Cabela's. They were shopping for Justin's Christmas. So mom was going to ask if he wanted to go, but it was for him. She's like, I probably shouldn't bring him. He'll know what he's getting for Christmas. So so they obviously didn't go with him. And I spent the day with Maddie at home and we were baking. So then I think my mom said it's about 3:44 that she got a text back from Justin when she texted asking if he would have gotten the time off for after Christmas. And the text we got was just, it hasn't been confirmed yet. And we say like it's uncharacteristic text message because usually Justin would talk a bit more or send like a gif of something funny. But we also weren't alarmed by it at the time because we didn't know that 2 days later we were going to get a call that said he was missing and nobody had seen him. So we just, left it at that. Maybe he was busy tinkering. Maybe he was listening to his ebooks and, didn't want to get interrupted while people were like texting. So.
And at this point, you have not heard from Justin all week. And the Saturday, you were baking cookies. Your mom was going to Barrie to go Christmas shopping. And this text comes in from who she thinks is Justin, and she had been waiting because he wanted to get some time off, or she was asking him, hey, are you going to get some time off? And what was the answer? Now, 2 questions, I guess maybe one question first is, when's the last time you know for sure that Justin was at work? And the other question is, that's about it, because we're still on the Saturday. So I'll bring up the next question in 1 minute.
So for me, for sure that he was at work. So the day we got the phone call on Monday, I called his work automatically because mom was too busy rushing. And I was like, I'll just call places. And they said that he hadn't been in since Wednesday, that he had been off for a couple shifts already. So, because when I called, I said, did Justin come to work last night? So the Sunday night. And she said, no, let me call you right back. So she hung up the phone, the lady I was on the phone with, and she called me back and she said that he actually hadn't been in for quite a few shifts. So, but that's all she knew. And then she said that she would contact the other people he worked with and see if they'd heard from him. They contacted, they called him Skip, I think the manager of the plant, I think. And she called back later again and said that nobody had seen him or heard from him. So, she obviously, wished us best and hopefully hear from Justin soon and stuff. So.
And just to clarify, the Wednesday, so Justin and Bud worked the 12 to 8 a.m. shift. So they would go to work Tuesday night. The shift would begin at midnight and then go towards 8 a.m. and then they would come home, correct?
Yeah.
So then he was scheduled the Thursday night and then also the Sunday night, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So he hadn't been in since the Wednesday from 8 a.m. he came
From
home.
8 a.m. the morning, yeah.
Correct.
Because he already had Friday off, so.
Right. And at that time, is my understanding is that because of COVID and everything that was going on, they weren't doing too many hours a week, right? So everybody was on limited hours.
Yes. They were getting like the government, I don't know what it's called.
Assistance.
Yes, the government like assistance that helps with like their paychecks and stuff because they were losing hours and days sometimes, like they'd lose a whole shift and stuff.
So for Justin, would he, because of the limited hours, limited money, the government's topping up or however that worked, would it be unlike Justin to not go into work because it's already limited pay? We know he's paying rent, and you can speak a little bit about that as well. Would this be out of the norm for Justin just not go into work?
Yeah, so most definitely, like, even not even talking about McLaren Press, like his past, he never missed work. Like that's I mentioned it earlier. He started working for my grandparents fairly early on, and he would work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Sunday. Like they're open every single day of the week. So no, even Justin as a younger person would never miss work and not call in or no show. So yeah, he never did that.
So a little odd.
Yes, definitely odd.
And if he would not miss work, if he wouldn't miss, or sorry, if he would miss work or had to, perhaps maybe he was sick or something, was it something that he would call in, or would he text into the crew boss? How would that work?
From what I've heard from Justin is that he texted. He would just text the crew boss. That's what they called him. If he wasn't going to be there. That's what I know. I don't think he had to call in. I think he could just text like, "Hey, I won't be there." Blah blah blah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's really dependable, from my understanding. He's a
Very.
dependable worker, hard worker. Very out of character not to show up without telling anybody. Very out of character, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, not to show up for dinner. Very unlike his character to just not show up at all without telling anybody. And he doesn't drive, right?
Yeah. He is a very vocal person. Like he'll tell you what he's doing, but where he lived with, it was respectful. Bud's mom, Glenna, would cook for them, and she made their lunches for work. So if he wasn't going to be there, he told them. He didn't want them to make extra food. He was just polite, and I don't know, just, and that's it too. Like some rumors have come out that, oh, Justin never did that kind of stuff, or he didn't have to. No, he's 22. He didn't have to, but that's the kind of person he was.
Mm-hmm.
He made sure to tell people where he was going if he wouldn't be home. Sometimes, sure, if he said, okay, I'm just going over here for the night or something, and then spent 2 nights, that's not, I'm going to say, unheard of. But for him to leave, he would tell you.
Yeah. And even my understanding is just, it's out of respect. Some people, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have to tell anybody, but he does. And that goes to show what he did, what his pattern was. He say, hey, like, I'm not going to be there. And from my understanding, he was very appreciative of Glenna cooking for him. And I'll unmute you so you can chime in. But that she was cooking for him, and he would eat what she put out, is my understanding. And
yeah, so when he lived at home, he was picky. He is picky. Like he won't eat salad. He won't eat onions. He won't eat tomatoes. He won't eat, like, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. He hated mayo. He was very, like, if you made him a burger and just put ketchup on it, great. So he's very simple. Like if you made a meat and a vegetable, he'd eat that. But he didn't like things that were like weird and mixed together. But he said when he moved out, he's like, you just ate what was given to you. He's like, someone cooked it for you, you eat it. So there was a lot of things that he had, I guess, grown to like, or just accepted to like. And he just, like, I don't know how many times I'd take him out and be like, oh, you want that off? And he's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, who are you? Because he had tried, like, he's like, oh, I eat way more things now. So it was just, yeah, just respectful. And he wasn't going to be picky at somebody else's house who's cooking for him. Like, I know he paid rent, but it was still someone else cooking.
sure.
Yeah. Like he rented the room. He didn't own the trailer part, like the trailer. So, it was still respectful.
And can you clarify also, I know Justin would go to sleep at around that noon or 2 o'clock mark. He would stay up first. He'd come home from work at 8 a.m. He'd stay up a little bit and then go to sleep. One of the things that is curious, and I've been asking about, and I see there's a couple discrepancies on this, is he would come home and sleep at that noon or 2 o'clock mark, or somewhere in there. And then there's been statements that he slept all the way till 10 o'clock, would get up and they get ready for work. But correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we had this chat before. Just let me know if this is right or not. But he would get up at dinner time, and again, this is one of the things that if he wasn't going to eat at dinner time, he'd actually say so. For me, I think a 22-year-old is constantly hungry, it seems, and I'm raising two boys, and they're constantly hungry. So at 22 years old, I'd think you're going part of the day, you're probably going to get up for dinner. But I'd like to know, from your point of view and what Justin would do.
Yeah. So from my point of view, and from what I've heard from Justin, to kind of clarify, Justin spoke to me about like everything under the sun. So just my point of view, but also what he's said to me, was that, yeah, he would go sleep between, as you said, noon to sleep till about dinner time. He'd get up for dinner, have dinner, stay up for a little bit. Like, I've called him before and he's been sitting in the living room and they have like the news on or something. So he'll stay up for a little bit, and then he usually tries to, I think, get a couple hours sleep in before he has to go to work. So I would say maybe an hour, 2 hours after dinner, and then he'd probably crash again. I mean, I didn't live there. It's just going off of what, yeah, like what Justin has said, and yeah.
Okay, so Sunday night he was supposed to go to work,
Yeah,
and didn't. And then now we bring it to Monday. And here's the day that he was reported missing. Can you walk us through that?
sure. So most of the day was normal. We got up, we went to work. My mom picks up my oldest brother, Warren, every morning. We start at 7. And then it wasn't actually until maybe 15 minutes before the end of the day that my mom got a call from my grandma asking if we'd seen Justin, and saying that Glenna called and said that nobody has seen him since Saturday, so for 2 days, and that there was a large amount of blood found in the Justin shed. I was changing my shoes because at work we have to wear work boots, and I came out into the warehouse floor, and she's like, "Your brother's missing. Justin's missing." And she was rushing to get I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm like, has anyone called work?" And she's like, "Call in for work?" "No, I don't care about I'm like, no, call his work, see where he is." And then she's trying to get my other brother, Warren, because as I said, she picked him up and drove him home. So she's like, "Come on, Warren, like, we have to get going. I need to go." And because Justin doesn't just disappear. So we were panicked. So I'm like, "Mom, don't worry about it. I got him." But then when I say I got him, she thought I was on the phone with his work, and I said I got him. So then she's like, "Oh, you found?" I'm like, "No." So it was like, she kind of had like a moment of relief for like 5 seconds, and then back to panic again. So I took, anyway, it was blizzarding that Monday, and it was our like first big snowfall. Like, we'd had a few snowfalls, but none of them had stayed, but this one was a blizzard. And so the drive is usually about 20 minutes, but it was probably about, for Mom, I want to say about an extra 10, so maybe 30, 35 minutes. I mean, I wasn't in the car with her, but her perspective of the drive down to the McKinney's household, she first called Glenna back, which is Bud's mom, who called my grandma, and was talking to her on the phone, and asked if the police had been called yet, and they said no, they hadn't called anybody. And my mom explains it as like, she said that Glenna kind of laughed into the phone and said, "This isn't like Justin, to not tell us like where he's going, to just disappear." So mom kind of yelled into the phone, not kind of, I'm sure she did. She was pretty frantic. Yelled into the phone to call the police, like right now. She's like, "You need to call them right now." And she hung up the phone. And then she called my stepdad and asked if he had seen him, and he said no. And my stepdad started calling all the hospitals, and Justin wasn't there. And he also called, I'm not sure if he called 911 directly or if he called just like the OPP branch, like the Bracebridge branch. But that James gave the officer my mom's contact. So then he contacted my mom. And by the time she got to the park, the police were there about 10 minutes later. So then I guess my trip from work, I got into town, I dropped my oldest brother off, and I was trying to get up a hill. I had to go through like 3 stop signs and then a set of lights and then onto the highway, and then it's just straight there. But I got stuck and I was panicking. I still remember this panic, and I was trying to call my little sister because I didn't know if she had heard yet, and then if she wanted to come to the park with us so she wasn't home by herself. And I was stuck, and I like screamed into the phone, and not at her, but just because I was so frustrated that I couldn't get out, and I just needed to get there. And then I finally did get unstuck. I just kept kind of like going down the hill and like back up. I wasn't really giving up. Sorry. And so I finally got there, and I was panicking, as I said, and I ended up calling my grandma because I was panicking, and I was trying to drive, and she kept trying to tell me to calm down because I didn't need to get in an accident as well. But she wanted me to stop home first. I was picking up Maddie anyway. But before I left, she wanted me to come see her. And through the drive, I just kept trying Justin's phone. I kept calling and calling and calling and calling. He hates voicemails, but I still left one, probably more than one. So it was just, I guess, a very frantic drive over.
Can I ask you phone?
Pardon?
I'd like to ask you something about the phone. When you were phoning and phoning and phoning, did it ring or did it just go to voicemail?
It was ringing. It was actually, so if I can, it might be jumping a little bit ahead. But so we got to the house probably about 5. My mom did. I got there probably a bit after 5. And the police tried to track Justin's phone. And it actually had only been dead at about 6 a.m. that day. So it actually had only been dead for about 12 hours when they tried to track it. So I guess a lot of people say, well, they should still be able to track it. I know the police mentioned trying to get the providers to do like a hard start on the phone, but we've never heard anything about that, so we don't know if it ended up working or not working. Could just be broken. We don't know.
Mm-hmm. But it is missing.
But it is still missing, yeah.
Okay, so Monday you get there. Now your mom gets there first, correct?
Yeah.
Then you get there.
Yeah. And then my stepdad, James, came as well, but he wasn't there for a couple hours because he was driving from the city. He works far from home, like he travels for work, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you get there. Can you explain a little bit more about once you get there?
Yeah, so when I get there, my mom, so we weren't in their house. That's like a mudroom area. But so I didn't pull into their parking lot because the police cars were blocking it. But when I first got out, a police officer walked up to me and I said who I was and that they were searching for my brother and stuff. And then they allowed us to go up to the mudroom where my mom was, and the Ken, Glenna, Bud, and Kiara were, and they asked us questions. Just like when I first got there, they mentioned doing a missing poster for him, so they asked us to find a recent photo. Kiara ended up pulling up the one for Justin of his profile picture, not the one with the fish. It was an old picture. And then I found one that was from the summertime. So we had two of them anyway. And then my mom, me, and my little sister were asked to sit down and kind of fill out the missing persons report. The Bud and that family were the last people to see him, so they knew like that he was in his boots and his camo boots, his blue jeans, his jacket. I mean, I was in my head like so sure. He always wore a hat, so I was like adamant that he would have had a hat on. We did end up finding that hat in the room, so I was not correct there. I just was because he always wore this gray toque when it was cold out. Like in the summer, he always wore a baseball cap, but in the winter, he always wore a gray toque. So in my mind, I was like, there's no way he didn't have it, but he didn't. Okay, that's fine. I didn't see him last, so sorry, it sounded like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say about his sunglasses.
Yeah.
Did he typically wear his sunglasses? Like I see so many pictures of his white sunglasses on his head.
Yeah.
Was he like that day and night? Like just kind of put them up, on his forehead or on his head all the time?
Yeah. So usually if he had a cap on, he would like a baseball cap, he would just like put it on the brim. So yeah, if he wasn't wearing them, it was usually like on top of his head. So
what about a toque?
His toque? Yeah, that was his gray toque that he would wear like in the winter. He didn't usually have his sunglasses with his toque, I wouldn't say. Not usually. But he didn't end up having his toque, so I don't know if he had his glasses or not. I mean, they weren't in his room. We cleaned out his room, so they definitely weren't in there.
Okay, I'd like to ask you this in a minute.
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, so we filled out the missing persons report, and then they asked us to go to our cars. We weren't allowed to leave. So we were sitting in my mom's van, and which was in the McKinney's parking lot. She pulled right in. And we were waiting, and they were just calling us in like one by one to ask for statements of the last time we seen Justin. So, I mean, all of ours were from a week prior. So, I mean, I don't know how much that would have really helped them, but because it was a full week later, but.
Yeah. Okay, so there's two things. So that was the Monday. And I know there's some discrepancies, some oddities about this. We can speak however much you'd like. But I know that there's been kind of conflicting statements once your mom, Jamie, got to the McKinney's, and as to, people offering some information as to where they were that day. And I know Saturday, there's also been some conflicting times. And now we're looking at quite a long time that weekend that Justin was missing. Bud stated and Kiara stated both in public statements that they had seen Justin in Bud's dad's shed early morning at 7 a.m. This has now been a little bit different in the time frame as to who saw Justin last and when. Can you explain a little bit more about that, or even just the feeling, what you went through and your family went through, going, wait a minute, when was he last seen? And how did it take this long? Yeah, because I know there's some questions and I know there's a lot of people asking about it, and I know you want to speak about it. So how do you
So I guess I'll start from my mom's kind of when she first got there, because she was there before me, so she kind of heard like the beginning. So on the Monday, December 14th, we were told that Glenna, so my mom, because it was her perspective, I'm going to go from hers because it's not mine, was told that Glenna seen Justin last going out to his shed. I believe she said at 8:30, 8:39. And then a bit later, Glenna said, oh, wait, was it Saturday? And my mom got very upset and said, like, what do you mean? Like, maybe. Like, the police are going off of what you are saying. Like, you said you seen him last. So if it's really not when you seen him last, then when's the last time he was seen? So she got pretty upset. And Ken, the dad, Bud's dad or grandpa, stepped forward pretty close to my mom's. Like if she was standing, he would have been in her face. And he said, "Do you think you're the only one upset?" And my mom said, "Well, it seems like it." And she was standing up as well. Bud did take him out of the situation. He kind of just like, I don't know if he took him outside or where, but they left the area for a minute, I guess. And it wasn't till later that we heard about Bud seeing Justin at all that morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we were also told that Ken went to Barrie with Bud. So that day, Monday, December 14th, they're asking people what they were doing when they last seen him. And it was, we left for shopping at 7 or whatever. And Bud said his dad went to Barrie with him. Not Kiara wasn't mentioned going to Barrie, just Bud and his dad. These friends weren't mentioned. So that's something that's just odd that it.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But there's some conflicting statements, and the 7 a.m. waving at Justin did not come out to public from my point of view, our point of view, watching, looking in, until weeks later. I believe it was in January. Is that correct? That it was the statement about Glenna seeing him going to the shed, but not the 7 a.m. until weeks later, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So it wasn't until Bud made his public statement that said that he seen Justin in his dad's shed at 7 in the morning. So, yeah. So, I mean, my family's frustrated. We've had a lot of lies and holes in the times that they've seen him. Nobody else besides the McKinney family can tell us the last time they seen him, other than the night he worked, like till Wednesday morning. After that, it's like he just vanished.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there was no on December 14th, the day he was reported missing. It wasn't Bud and Kiara that went to Barrie. It was Bud and Ken. Glenna was the one to see him in the morning, not Bud. Now, they still say Glenna did see Justin in the morning, but now Bud says he's seen him earlier in his dad's shed. So it's just and now there's friends that went. It's just so many things that weren't there at the beginning that all of a sudden just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah. And did Justin ever talk about Bud's dad's shed?
Not really. He'd mentioned before that, I think his dad, like Bud's dad, kept like the yard stuff in there. So like if it was snowing, Justin like snow blow or whatever, and the thing cuts the grass, the lawnmower. Like I don't know what that's called. And Justin did cut grass, so I mean I could see him going in there for like yard stuff. I'm pretty sure my mom's laughing at me. I can hear her in the other room. Anyway, I couldn't see him going in there for anything other than something he would need for the yard or the house or something. So.
And then there's this frustration of, why is it taking so long? Because my understanding, your mom had to say, like, have you called the cops yet? Call the cops.
Right? Yes. So, like, we would have heard from my grandma at 4:15. My mom, like, was basically right in the car. Like, she walked into the office and was like, I have to go. Justin's missing. And she just, like, stormed out. So she would have been in the van by at least 4:30 and headed there. And she said she called Glenna. So if we're using Bud's statement, his online statement, he states that he looked for Justin at noon. So from 12 to 4, we'll give you a little bit of 15 minutes, Glenna calling my grandma and my grandma calling my mom. It took them 4 hours to even call my family. And then they still hadn't called the police after they found the shed. And then it took my mom to yell, like, call the police. Like, why you find a shed, someone's missing, the shed is in the way it is, and you don't think it's concerning? So it is frustrating. It's frustrating that it took us being like my family to like get them to do it, to call 911, and the hours that it took for them to call us. Like, as I said earlier, Justin and Bud have been friends since kindergarten. They spent a lot of time between houses. I did date Bud through my high school years, so he was here a lot. He hung out with Justin. He hung out with my mom, my family. So it's not like we were strangers to him. It's not like he could have been like, hey, I haven't seen Justin. The shed looks really bad. It's covered in blood. Really concerned. It's not like it would have been hard for him to reach out.
And right? There was no reaching out.
No, he didn't. It was actually his mom who ended up contacting my grandma 4 hours later. So it's just the amount of time is very strange that it took. So.
And Bud is Justin's best friend. They grew up, like you said, since kindergarten. You have a history with Bud. You dated Bud for how long was it?
4 years.
For 4 years. So you were with him, and I mean, fairly close, right? Everyone's fairly close, really close. And my understanding, like you said, he came over, he hung out. So now something happens to Justin. And would you kind of think that you would have gotten a phone call from him? Like it would have been not out of the norm for him to phone you?
Not me directly.
Family, I meant. Yep.
Yeah. Like I didn't really have any contact anymore, but my family has a business. The numbers are right out there. Like, it's a business. You can just look it up and get the number. So it wouldn't have been hard to call somebody. I don't know if he had contact with anyone else in my family, if he had anybody's numbers. I mean, there's been messages over Facebook between Bud and my mom and my aunt and Bud. So there's that way he could have sent a message like, hey, I don't know your number, but I wanted to get in contact with you. There could have been something.
So it's
and
just
it
really
was
confusing.
pardon?
It's just really confusing for you and your
Yes.
family. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, I guess Kiara, in her video that she did, she said that Bud didn't like making phone calls. But I guess I don't really care. Your best friend, as you say, who is missing, is gone, and you're still, what, too nervous to call somebody?
Yeah.
Sorry, my opinion got a little saucy, but
It's understandable. You have your brother's best friend living with your brother. He's now missing, and then you find out he's now been missing for at least 2 days, potentially more, because I am of the same understanding that no one else has seen Justin after Wednesday. And I can understand the family. I mean, whoever it is, if you have a history of, 20 years together as a family, being around. I have a best friend. I've been around her since I was born, and I mean, I know everybody reacts differently. However, in a case like this, and your best friend's missing, you would think some sort of communication, even a text or something, right? So now, can you tell me? We're just going to go past this for a sec. We can go back in a few minutes, but let's go past this just for a sec in the couple days after and what happens then. Because my understanding, you come back to the trailer.
yeah. So just to clear up, the Monday they crime scened it, so there was tape and everything. No, everyone had to leave. The
Sorry,
McKinneys.
one more second, Kristen.
Yeah.
I'm going to backtrack for a sec because you talked about making that area the crime scene. Without going into details, but this shed, as you said, is now a crime scene. And it is severe to the point where something's seriously wrong. And perhaps that text that came in on Saturday, as you said, now is like, wait a minute, if it's last he's seen Saturday morning and he's giving a regular text in the afternoon, what's going on, right? Is that how your family's seeing this?
Yeah, I guess it's just, if he was really last seen Saturday morning and we got the text, yeah, I don't even,
It's
like, it's confusing. It's, yeah.
Okay, so crime scene on Monday, they tape it off, do their thing, then what?
3 days later, they, our liaison called us and let us know that the McKinneys were being allowed back into their home, and that the crime scene had been opened, but like the tape's been all taken down. They did say they took the McKinney's vehicles, like the SUV and the car, and that they still didn't have those back. So we didn't want Justin's things to be left there. So I was headed to town with my little sister, just to Gravenhurst, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go around the block into the trailer park, and because they said they were just being allowed back in. So I'm like, they probably just got home or will be getting home like any minute. So I pulled in and they weren't quite home yet. And I hadn't seen the shed, so I did end up walking back there because it wasn't locked and nobody was there. And I looked in the shed, and I mean, I will now have the memory scarred forever. But it is awful. I mean, whatever happened, it's awful. Whatever happened to him. I'm sorry. And when I was walking back up, I heard the car pull in and the McKinneys got out of their car. And I said that James and my aunt are going to come clear out Justin's things. They'll be here in about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. My stepdad James has a big work van. So they brought the van and cleared out Justin's room. We didn't touch the shed. They actually ended up putting a lock on it just so nobody could go in and out. The police weren't using it anymore, but we, well, actually, so we didn't get the stuff from the shed because we were told that the police were taking the shed back over. And then it snowed, and then later we found out the police told us, no, they didn't take it back over. It was just the McKinneys who had put a lock on the shed. And they kept put the lock on so they didn't have random people coming out and checking the shed, which is fine. We were a bit annoyed that we were told that the police had taken it back because if they hadn't, we would have gotten Justin's stuff sooner. But then when the snow had fallen, we couldn't get to the shed because it had piled up, like the snow around the shed. But actually, when my aunt was there helping clean out Justin's things, Bud was helping too. He said again to my aunt that Bud, like Ken, went to Barrie with him. Like his dad went to Barrie with him. So this is twice, 3 days apart, that he says that Ken went to Barrie. And it wasn't until January where Bud made his statement that we found out that Ken really didn't go to Barrie, that Kiara went to Barrie, and they picked up friends, family, whatever, in Bracebridge, Brucedale, I don't freaking know where. But 3 days later, we cleared out Justin's things. There was still a few more things left, so we knew we'd have to do a trip back, which we did just after Christmas, actually. And we got the leftover stuff. Justin's the phone bill, the satellite, the phone, and the internet were all in Justin's name. So we didn't want the money just to keep coming out. So we canceled those and you have to send back the modems. So we cleaned out Justin's room. He had just bought a brand new bed. So we brought the bed home. There was a carpet. I actually have it on my floor, but we were at Giant Tiger. My little sister really wanted a carpet for her room, and he seen this carpet and freaking loved it. So he bought it too. So we rolled that up, and I was like, well, I'll just put it down in my room. It's gray and white and whatever, but whatever. It was his. But one of the things that really still kind of makes my blood boil a little bit was when I was getting the things. Bud and Kiara weren't there. I don't know what they were doing, celebrating their own life. Was Glenna said what ruined her Christmas was not having their vehicles. And I didn't even say anything. I was very took back because they're missing someone from their home and they're worried about their vehicles. I'm missing a brother. I don't care about your vehicles. I don't know.
Yeah. That's tough.
So yeah, even still days later, we were still hearing lies about who actually went to Barrie, who actually seen Justin last.
Yeah, it is changing. I will say that in the beginning, it's changed the timing. Recently, there's been another change as to where she actually picked up her sister and the sister's boyfriend or husband or whatever. It has changed. It was Bracebridge, then it's now Sprucedale. I believe I said that right, Sprucedale. And so there is a little bit of, there's a lot bit of discrepancies in both statements. We can't We can't ignore that because that is something that is very stark. You can see the discrepancies and things are added later and changed, and there's just some worrisome thing. In my opinion, this is my opinion, me putting this out there. There's just me and timelines and something's not right. I don't know why though. Nobody's saying anyone's guilty. There's just, why is there discrepancies and how do we, how does someone get to the bottom of it? And yeah, why does it not line up?
Yeah, exactly. Same with my family. We're not saying they did it. The McKinneys are. No, we're not. It's just, why are there so many different versions of your story? And why can you go to the last second of your day on Saturday and tell us what happened, but nothing beforehand? And I think, in my opinion, I feel like they're shocked when people are, question their discrepancies, and they get mad and frustrated when people question them. And um, sorry, I lost my wording there.
I think it's a normal. I think it's a normal thing. I think when you have something like this that has happened, you start at the location where it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the timeline, you look at the things surrounding what's happened, the days surrounding it, the people surrounding it. Now, there's other people that there's been chitter chatter about as well. We can talk about in a minute for sure. But that's where it starts. And some things lead you away from the home or the shed, and some things don't. Sometimes we're still stuck at the shed or at the area because things aren't right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'd like to talk about is a little bit about Kiara not liking Justin, because everybody's going, well, wait a minute, why didn't Kiara like Justin? She was very vocal about it. And she was also vocal about not liking you.
Yeah.
Because you dated Bud.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit? Did Justin ever kind of say, like, this girl does not like me, or it's tough to live in there, or anything? And if you can't speak about it, that's okay too. But just, what was it like from Justin's point of view? Was it tough on him? Because I could imagine if you have your best friend and then best friend's boyfriend doesn't like you, like it might feel a little bit not so good.
Yeah, so I'm fine with speaking about it. I obviously can't speak for Kiara, but I will speak from Justin's point of view. He talked to me quite a bit about it. It was definitely frustrating. I mean, as I've said, Justin was a very go with the flow, so it didn't really interrupt his life. They just kind of stopped talking. Like, he just cut off communication. They just coexisted in the same house. But from what he's told me was just, she didn't like him because she didn't like me. She didn't like when Justin talked, because he'd come over here quite often. So she didn't like when Justin would come to the house or come home and then talk about his weekend, which involved me and his family. They are very different personalities. Justin, as I said, is very go with the flow, very sarcastic. You have to take his sarcasm as a joke, and if you don't, it's probably gonna hurt your feelings. Like, he was always just joking, but some people don't take it that way. She was much more serious than Justin. They I know he told me once about a conversation they had. She drove him to work one night, and she, I guess, wanted to maybe have some of this resolved, but she basically, in the way he told me, was like that. I don't want you talking about any of your family, not just your sister, like nobody. And Justin's like, well, they're my family. He's very close to us. He, I mean, kind of talking to Justin wasn't a fan of hers either. In the same reason though, like Justin didn't like her personality, didn't like the way she treated Bud. So like there's just he didn't like the way she treated other people. Justin, as I said, is very respectful and caring and will help out wherever. So I think they're just very opposite.
A clash of personalities.
Very clash of the personalities. And Justin wasn't willing to, we were not raised to walk on eggshells. If you don't like the way we are, we're blunt. We're upfront people. Definitely. Pardon?
Take me as I am.
Yes, and that was really Justin. Like he's like, I'm not changing just because you don't like what I do. I think she was also jealous of Justin and Bud's relationship. As I said, they had their inside jokes. They'd been friends for years. There was things that she wasn't part of in Bud's life. And I think part of it was Justin. Like he would take Bud sometimes, I think, away from her, the attention away from her. Again, speaking my opinion, Justin's, not Kiara's. And he really didn't like the fact that she kind of bashed us. Like he was very, very close with us, me and Justin, as I said, or you said, sorry, 2 peas in a pod. We were very close. So,
and from Bud's just thinking about this, I would think from Bud's point of view, this would be challenging. I mean, he knows his girlfriend doesn't like his best friend. And this is just me guessing, and you know him, obviously, you've known him for years and years and years. What would that be like, perhaps from Bud's point of view, knowing girlfriend does not like my best friend's not really crazy about the girlfriend? That might make a sticky situation. Like, where do I put my time to, to spend, really?
Yeah. So, just somewhat, oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. It came up mute and I was like, oh, okay. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh, I can only speak to, I don't know what Bud was feeling, obviously, but they definitely weren't as close. Like before Kiara moved in, they did like a lot of driving around. If Bud was going to town, Justin would hop in, go to town. Just, whatever, they'd hang out. But they definitely had lessened that. Like Bud and Kiara were still dating when Justin moved in. So I don't think that they had such tension between each other when they first started hanging out. I feel like it was more when she moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're around her all the time. So yeah, definitely I think it changed Justin and Bud's relationship. And I mean that goes to his other friends too though. Like me and Bud, we were together all through high school. We had the same friend group and he does not talk to anybody anymore. I have another friend he's a dude and they were really close and not as close as Justin and Bud. But, we joke around that they have a bromance going. And he has not talked to or hung out with our old friend group in a very long time, like years. So he kind of distanced from his other friends, and you could see it happening with Justin. The distance happening. They were definitely not hanging out as much, going out together as much. So
yeah. And people, okay, so people are saying, and there's been some chatter about Kiara, Justin, and Bud potentially moving out on their own together. Is this correct? Can you verify or clear up some things?
Yeah, so Justin talked about it quite a lot, actually. He was pretty frustrated with it because he didn't want to move out with them. He liked where he lived. He liked his room. He liked his space. Someone cooked for him, made his lunches. He had a spot where he could make his own garden, his own bonfires, his shed where he could tinker with whatever he wanted. He had a good space. But Bud and Kiara kind of kept bringing it up. Justin, not to bring up finances, but he was very good with his money. He had very good credit. Like when he was younger, he bought his first cell phone. And just to get even more credit, they told him that he was approved for 2 lines. So then he bought my little sister's cell phone and was paying both of them so he could get his credit build faster. So he had very good credit. He had a good job, like a full-time job. Bud had a full-time job. But at the time, to what I was told by him, was that Kiara did not have those things. So they kind of needed Justin on the lease, I guess, to sign, the co-sign. But they never invited him to come see the apartments. The ones they looked at, he was never invited to come look at them. He told me that they had rules that he had to follow. He wasn't allowed to have his family over, like me and my sister. He wasn't allowed to put his things up around the apartment. So, I mean, I wasn't directly there for these conversations, but it's what he had told me, that he was told that he wasn't allowed to do. And he didn't want any of it. He just said no. Like, yeah. It's like, I'm not moving into a place where now I'm paying more rent, because that's where he lived. He didn't really pay too much. It was just a 1 room. So, only a couple hundred, well, more than a couple, but whatever, fine. And he's like, well, I'll be paying more rent, and now I have to follow your rules. Like, it's just not what he wanted, and he was comfortable where he was.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a offer.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you at all.
It doesn't feel like an appealing offer, not something that one would want to take or desirable in any way.
Yeah, no. I definitely wouldn't take that. I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead, and then I'll ask.
I just mean, like, he was all for, like, staying there, and then they could move out. It's not like he, but even him still living there, like, he can keep up on the yard work. He could have kept up in, like, the snow, because Bud's mom is elderly. She's always has oxygen. Like, she can't move very well. And Bud's dad's older, so Justin was the young man. That's my mom always said, there's your boys, they do certain work. I mean, it's kind of but they do the heavy lifting. They're the young guys, they do that for the older people. So
Justin got along with everybody. That this is the general understanding. Maybe not so much with Kiara. Bud was his best friend, and I mean has been all his life. And then you have Glenna and Ken, who have this room for Justin. He's paying for it. And is there any odd things, or I mean, did they get along well? I know he talked a lot about Glenna and her cooking, and he, is appreciative. Did he ever talk a little bit about Ken, or because it's been years too that he would know them?
Yeah, so Ken is an alcoholic. He does drink quite a lot. And so I think most of the time people in the house got along well, on a regular basis. Ken had there's definitely a few violent altercations. Justin had recently, actually, before all this happened, brought up one that Ken was drunk and Bud and him got into it, and Bud hit him and he fell and he cracked his head open, and Ken was bleeding. And Justin's like, we have to call 911, but everyone was worried that Bud would get arrested. But Justin's like, you're just going to let him bleed? So they did end up calling 911, but they just said that Ken slipped. And when he fell, Justin did step in between Bud and Ken. And Bud went to punch Justin, and Justin's like, are you seriously going to punch me? And he backed off. They didn't get in a physical altercation at all. But Justin went to the back of his room because he's like, I'm not lying. If they ask what happened, I'm not going to lie. So he just went to his room, and they dealt with the incident. So, I mean, I don't think Justin had any problems with Ken. Not that he had told me about, but there's definitely been problems in the house.
Yeah. One of the questions then I have, because you said that Justin kind of stepped in and Bud was going to, and he said, like, is that what you're going to do kind of thing now? Paraphrasing. Was there any altercations with Bud and Justin? Did they ever, butt heads, or, I mean, because it's a long friendship, right? But did they ever kind of butt heads, or had like a falling out of any sort or anything like that?
No falling outs. They've always been pretty close, even when Bud moved away. Not that they kept in contact when Bud moved away for a little bit. But when they come back, they were thick as thieves again. But nothing physical. I'm sure they've gotten verbal arguments. Like, someone for long enough, you're going to bicker sometimes.
Yeah.
But nothing physical that I knew of, anyway.
What about for
Kiara and Justin, I think, gotten quite a few disagreements, but again, nothing physical. I mean, one time I was there visiting Justin in the parking lot. I was standing outside my car, and I brought Angus, which is our dog, and Justin was, oh, hi, Angus. So I took him out off the leash, and me and Justin were talking about our work week. And after I left, Justin said that Kiara said to Bud, or to them, that if I was to stay any longer, she was going to come up and start a fight with me. And Justin did say, he's like, well, then I'd have to throat punch you, because he's like, that's my sister. You can't just do that. And then he told Bud, he's like, I would understand you tackling me after that, but you don't just start a fight with somebody. So nothing has actually happened, but there's been like speak of it, I guess.
Okay. Let's talk about a little bit forward. We're going to talk a minute about the sunglasses, because this is a point of contention for many people. We'll speak a little bit more about, I know we touched a little bit upon that. Let's just go back to that for a sec, because we're talking, what, two or 3 months later, and you can correct me in a minute. I'll take you off mute. I know this echoes kind of harsh tonight, but we'll speak a little bit about that, because all of a sudden you go back, you get Justin's stuff within the first few days, and now all of a sudden there's a picture that's posted, and Justin's sunglasses is now in the picture. Maybe you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure how long after, but definitely a few months afterwards. Maybe 3 or 4. I would say 3, actually, if I was estimating 3 months. Anyway, yeah, the photos just kind of were on Facebook, and my I think it was actually my aunt and my grandma who seen the photos first, and they were pretty like, those are not his glasses. And then they pulled up a photo of Justin's and Bud's, and they circled the glasses, and my mom then seen them. She's like, those aren't Justin's glasses. And she was very angry. Like, to other people, it's just glasses, but that's all we have left of Justin, are his things, the things that he found personal. Mm-hmm. He wore those glasses everywhere. He bought them. He was with my mom when he bought them for Africa. He wore them, as you guys can see in pictures, all the time. It's not like it was just a random pair that we wouldn't have noticed. But we have conflicting stories on those as well, though. Bud says that Justin, that he bought them from Justin, and Kiara, and actually one of her friends as well, was saying it, that Justin gave him the glasses. Which one is it? Did you buy them or did he give them to you? First of all, we don't believe either. Justin bought these glasses 3 years ago. They're old. Bud said that he bought them for, I think he said 60 or 40 or something. Justin only paid 30 for them. So why he would even get you to pay and give them to you just for a hat? I don't think it was he had one pair of sunglasses. Why would he just give his pair of sunglasses away that he wore almost every day if it was sunny? So, I mean, we don't really believe either one. I mean, we did have a few people say, well, did you ask for them back before, we did put a post on our Justin's page. And we did. We asked the police to get the sunglasses back. And we still hadn't gotten them. My mom was very upset and frustrated. I mean, she, I guess, admits now that, she did it in a way out of frustration and sadness and emotion. And she's allowed to feel that way. She's allowed to have all that emotion.
Absolutely.
But as soon as that post went up, the police must have seen it because we had the sunglasses. We had a phone call saying that they will go get the sunglasses this week. So we did end up getting them back. We still, don't know if they were actually bought or given or just they found them and they thought, these are my best friend's glasses. I want to be close to him or something. And in a way, I get that. I have one of his sweaters. I have a minky. It's a blanket that he slept with. I get that you want to be close. I guess the biggest issue is you didn't even ask. You didn't reach out and be like, hey, I found these sunglasses. I was really hoping I could keep them. I understand if you don't want me to, but I was just hoping to have something of Justin's to keep him close. No, he just appeared all of a sudden in pictures with them on. So
yeah, I think that's the toughest thing for a lot of us from the outside looking in too. I mean, everybody is different. Somebody passes away who's close, you want to be close to them and, have something of theirs. I agree with you when it comes to it's no one's real place until it's like, hey, I would like this. I did find these. I mean, it's curious to me only because that wasn't in his room, I guess, when you went to go clean out his stuff, it wasn't in there. And so that's that would be like, wait a minute, I thought we got everything of his stuff. Like, how come this is here? And I'm sure that was a little bit shocking. I know it's shocking to you guys because you said that. So I think for some people, they're saying, well, yeah, but maybe you should have asked and that kind of thing. So again, and no reach out, right? There wasn't really a reach out to you guys or.
Yeah. It wasn't until after my mom put the post out that Bud reached out and said that he wasn't wearing them because my mom said for a trophy on her page that he wasn't wearing them as a trophy and that he bought them from Justin. But it wasn't until the post was made that they actually decided to reach out. So
okay, so now let's talk. There's two of me tonight. Now it's fixed. Let's talk about some people being found, because this is where it goes from very peculiar to very, very peculiar.
Yeah.
There's now 3 bodies, correct me if I'm wrong, now 3 bodies that have been found. 2 in the early months of January, correct?
Yeah.
Actually 4, because then there was 1 in February, March, and then also now just recently the last couple weeks, correct? That has been found in the area.
Yeah, so I know about the one in Huntsville. The one that was really actually behind the information center, which is right near my home. And then the other neighbor of Justin's. I don't know the fourth.
So I think there was another one. I want to say a month or two ago, it was up more north, not Huntsville, the other area, and I believe it was a woman. I think it was, but there's been 4, and one of them, this tourism center or info center that you were talking about, and then another one who happens to be a neighbor of Justin's and a friend or acquaintance, from my understanding, of Justin as well. And I'll let you speak through a little bit of that, and then I'll tell you what some of the things that I know about him.
Yeah, so to just clear first, the guy by the information center has been completely ruled out to being related to Justin whatsoever. The police have ruled him out. He overdosed. But then Lucas was Justin's neighbor, and I hadn't actually even met this person. I don't think had lived up here very long, only like a few months, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6. And as I said, I didn't know him. But Justin was having a fire one night, and I know that he invited him to the fire. So I think it was just, if they were outside, they would talk. If Justin was having a fire, then sometimes he'd come over. But he definitely wasn't someone in Justin's life of big importance, because I didn't know about my family didn't even really know about him. He just called him the neighbor. He did commit suicide, and is 100%. The police, they say they have no doubts. It's for sure suicide. I mean, I don't really want to go into depth. I mean, like, they don't know if it's connected to Justin. They don't know if it's connected to Justin. But he has a family too who has just lost somebody. They're grieving. They didn't see it coming. And if, for say, he was involved, I'm not saying he is, it's not that family either who did it. So, I mean, I don't want them to feel like awful, more sad than they already are. So,
yeah. From my understanding with the neighbor, it is in the news in your area. In Muskoka, it said this is they ruled the other one out, not related at all. And with Lucas, the neighbor, that they're looking into it, whether it is or not. Go ahead, Kristen.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that's what we've heard too, is that they're still just looking into it.
Yeah, and from my understanding, like you said, was they were neighborly.
Mm-hmm.
I do know a little bit, just that he really liked bike riding, the neighbor. And so I was curious, although you don't know if they hung out too much, I was curious if they did go bike riding maybe together, because I do know that sometimes Justin would like to go bike riding, right? But it's a different kind of bike.
I don't think he ever went with his neighbor, because Justin would just go around the park. He didn't really go anywhere else. So, yeah, he would just bike around the trailer park. So I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that really stuck out to me on the neighbor, we're not going to go too deep in this, but from my understanding, what I saw was really, really great comments about him as well. Very similar, it seems, to the type of personality, just from my observation. Salt of the earth guy, the same kind of comments that would be about Justin, and that he had moved in summertime and had known Justin a short amount of time, and and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not a whole lot. We don't have anything from my point of view. I don't get much in way of public about this. And then there was another one that I told you, just I believe it was a woman. That was, I feel like it was in March or end of February or something like that. And then recently in April, there was another person found in Huntsville. Maybe you could speak a little bit about that, because I do realize that you are waiting on, well, everybody's waiting on news about who this could potentially be.
Yeah, so my mom got a phone call and asked for Justin's dental records when they found the person in Huntsville. And then they didn't really give us a time frame on how long it could possibly take. And then I want to say maybe a week, 2 weeks later, my mom got another phone call and said that there's nothing that indicates it's Justin, but nothing that they can say doesn't indicate him. And they couldn't say 100% until they get DNA back, which can take up to 30 days. So they didn't, other than kind of giving us a time frame of how long it could take, they didn't really tell us anything. So
Yeah, so that's good, because now you're your family is waiting in limbo, basically waiting to find out, is it, isn't it? And I can't imagine what your family's going through in something like that, because I mean, on one hand, I'm sure there's this push and pull, because well, maybe you could speak on that, on how it feels, not knowing and wondering. And
yeah, it's definitely I don't know the right word to use. You have a feeling of, okay, if it's them, maybe some closure, but also the thought of it being them is awful, because they speak to them about remains and a body, and that's not what Justin is. He is so full of life, and for him just to be body out there or remains, it's just tragic, and he deserves so much more. But at the same time, we want the closure. We want him home. We want to put him to rest. We want to say goodbye. But there's also so many other families, a few other I think 5 Huntsville people are missing around the area that are also waiting. So it's hard, because you want those families to not be going through what they're going through, because we know we can relate to them. But we also want our own closure. It's very emotional. It's sad. It makes you angry.
it's the
Yeah.
struggle.
Yes. As you said, it's kind of like a tug, like you're like tugging on the emotional, I don't even know how to explain it. It's
Yeah,
just awful.
yeah, like going through the push and pull. Is it, isn't he, like, is it him, isn't it him? And that's so tough, because I was thinking about this, and I haven't had this happen, but just thinking about you and your family and other families going, well, who is it? It's someone's loved one. Who is it? And I can't imagine, like you said, the struggle of, kind of hoping it's him because you can bring him home, and then kind of not, because what that means. And I always say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I always say that for the families of the missing, it's limbo. Being in limbo is like hell, and you just want to know. And one of the things, I mean, Justin hasn't been found. Justin hasn't been found, and he needs to come home. It's not the way you would hope or want, or but he needs to come home, and it's like you said, he deserves that. He deserves that. You deserve that. You all deserve to have him home.
Yeah, it's definitely hell. It's a hell I wish no one to ever go through. It's not a hell I thought I would ever experience. Like when I dropped him off on Sunday, did I think I'd never see him again? No. This is the longest I've ever gone without seeing him. I've always had him in my life, all through school. And as I said, I'm a stress ball, and he is so relaxed and calm that he would just get over it.
You know what, Kristen? I'm going to make you this promise. Anytime you want to be on here to say anything, post anything, me just to say something, this is your platform too. And you are the voice of Justin. And we have thousands here tonight who have him in their thoughts and their hearts. And I'm not going to stop until he's home. However that looks, whatever it takes, I won't stop. And so, like I told this to your mom too, whatever you need, even if it's a minute, even if it's 5 hours or 5 days, whatever you need, it's here. You just have to say the word. And our viewers are so caring, so loving. Numerous times I get messages, has Justin been found? How is it going? And he's not just a number. He's not just a number. And tonight you have given him a voice. You've explained his personality and his love and his heart. And the most respectful kid, I mean, I say kid because I'm older, most respectful kid, and just your family's so loving. And we just want to see you and your family get some closure, get some truth, because it's hard enough that Justin is missing, but then to have this crazy drama on top of it does not help the situation. And so if people, I know you're out there watching, whoever's watching, and if you have information, I need you and the family needs you to call, and I'm going to give you this number. It's 1-888-310-1122. And perhaps I'm going to put this in here too, because there is something that you may not have thought about that now comes in your brain like, oh yeah, I saw that. Oh.
I don't understand. I saw that.
All of a sudden my MacBook started talking. That's weird. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was like, I don't understand. 1-888-310-1122. That kind of went funky, but someone could perhaps put that better. And also Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-222-8277. This is also in the description below. And you can also report the information online at Crime Stoppers SDM, as in mom.com. And it's important. I always say this, something so small could be something so big. And it could be so minor, maybe you saw something 5 days before, 4 days before, 2 days before, a minute before, whatever it is. Please reach out, because it is the difference between finding Justin and not. And it could be, I should say. Thank you. There's others who are putting that up, and we will have that in the description. It's already in the description below. Also, Kristen and the family has a Facebook group named Bring Justin Evans Home. And I will be putting that in the description box as well. And so it's just really important. It's really important to get what you know out there. And even if it's something that, maybe you didn't tell the truth in the first place to someone, or something and you're really struggling, to say something or if you should, but it really is true. The truth will set you free. This is something that would eat at you for the rest of your life. And this family is going through hell. And that, I'm sure, is an understatement. I cannot even describe it because I'm not them. But I can say, with working with families and working on these cases for the last almost 2 years, this is something that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. So if you know something, please say something. And Kristen, you take the platform and say what you need to say on here as well.
I wanted to say something also on behalf of the rest of my family, but I guess kind of reaching out to the person or persons who did it. Justin's a person. He's such a loving, kind, caring person. He deserves so much better, and if you knew him, you know that. You know that he deserves to be with the people he loved. We are begging for somebody just have something. And as Linda said, I don't know if you're just scared, if you lied. But just think of Justin. Just not of yourself. Think of the person that was taken away, the life that's just gone. Please, my family needs him home. And even if you're just someone who's seen something and it's been months and you're like, well, what's the point of coming forward? Just come forward.
Do the right thing.
Please.
Now, Kristen, I'll let you gather your thoughts and do what you need to, however much time you need. Is there anything that, oh, my notes fell. My butt can barely sit on this thing. Is there anything tonight that I have not covered that you feel like you need to address or talk about?
I guess one more thing my family had discussed before this was that there is another neighbor in the park who has continuously tried to insert themselves into the case and the investigation. Made up many lies and stories about it. They have convinced themselves that Justin was in love with them, but also has convinced themselves that they are part of our family when they're not. This person's also tried to go live themselves and say they know the truth about Justin. They don't know the truth. And if they did, then go to the police. They've reached out to us and we've listened. But then the stories and the lies have just piled up that we don't believe anything anymore that this neighbor says. And as I said, they keep trying to insert themselves, being part of our grief, which I'm not saying, like, everybody out here who is spreading Justin's information, my family is unbelievably grateful. But the people or the person who continues to want to be part of my family's grief, I don't understand. I don't want this. So we just ask them to stop.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, are you okay if we take a couple questions, or would you like to wrap it up?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. So if you guys have some questions for Kristen, keep it classy. We're going to keep it classy in here. You guys are awesome. The group is awesome. So I'm just going to give that little reminder to keep it classy. I'm going to review these questions, and it may take an extra minute because I want to be sure that they're classy. I see Rachel Sean has given a super chat, and she says justice for Justin. For some reason, it's not popping up on here, but just know that we are all rooting for your family and bringing Justin home, and just lots of love towards you. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Somebody was asking how old is Justin. He's 22. When's his birthday, Kristen? Is it summer?
Yeah, July 22nd.
Okay. Mr. Linda is my husband. He just says, classy, please, we will delete. They know. They know. Mods are doing an incredible job tonight to have everyone keeping it classy. So they're just the questions are starting to roll in. But I will say that Kimberly says, Kristen, you are so strong and brave. And thank you tonight because, like I said, you're Justin's voice. And yeah, incredible job coming out here. I know it's a little scary coming online, and especially a new platform you've never seen before, and all that. So you're doing great.
Yeah, definitely a little nervous.
You're doing great. Danny Dash says, has Bud ever contacted Kristen? So I'm wondering if he's probably asking that after.
After the fact, no, I haven't had contact with Bud in a few years. Like, not saying that when I picked Justin up, I hadn't seen him at all, but like actually talked to him or anything. It's been a few years.
Okay. Bear with me here. What was the last update from law enforcement?
The last update we had was the phone call about that there was no identifying markers on the person they found, but none that could say it wasn't Justin, and that it could take up to 30 days. That was our last contact. Our liaison usually tries to call my mom once a week. Sometimes it's every 2 weeks, but they can't really share anything. So a lot of it's just, they let us know that they're still looking, they haven't stopped, and that's about it.
So, Kristen, you said 30 days for DNA to come back, right? So has it been now, it's going to be 3 weeks or 4 weeks this Monday?
I think since they found the body, maybe 4, but we just recently got this phone call that the DNA would take up to 30 days or could take up to 30 days. So I think that's an extra 30 days. I'm not exact, but I think that's what they mean.
Okay. Ms. T says 20 days. So must have been 20 days from how long it's been.
Yeah.
And then we're doing another 30 possibly, depending, I guess, when they get it back. And my understanding, there's quite a few, how do I word this? Cases that they're processing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's asking about the sunglasses. We already talked about the sunglasses. Did any neighbors have security cameras to help track Justin's activity?
Not neighbors that I know of. The police did say they did take footage from surrounding areas of like the park and stuff from like people's property. I don't know exactly who.
And it's also a remote place, right?
Yeah. Well, it's on the highway, so like anyone can go in and out. It's just it is off the highway and kind of there's like trees and stuff, and it goes off into the bush and then goes down into a creek and stuff. So yeah, it's remote enough.
Brenda says, has there been search parties in Kilworthy? If not, why not?
So we know the police have been out. They did their own search parties and they had dogs. we were asked by the police not to go. And to why, as we said, there's either 2 days that Justin was missing or 5, 6. And we have such vast amount of forest and lakes, and we don't know even where to start. The police have searched the park and they've searched surrounding areas. They say they listen to anybody's tips. So if someone gives a tip, they check into it. So it's just where to go next. And they don't want more people lost out there in the bush looking for somebody, I guess. In my opinion, is that they don't want more people out there just looking to look. And they did say in the beginning, like, they didn't want anybody out there in like the trailer park looking, just in case like evidence could be ruined. But
They want to protect.
Yeah, the integrity of the case. So.
And this area, for some of you who haven't seen it, look at this area when you have a minute. I should have had it on tonight, but it's very beautiful area. There's tons of trees. When Kristen talks about like lakes and water, there's not just 1 or 2. It looks like hundreds of lakes in the area. It's gorgeous. But I can understand, like, it's a small town surrounded by a bunch of forest.
Yes, it's a large, like, mass of forest. And I mean, if someone gave a location to go searching, we would be out there in a heartbeat. But we've been asked not to by authorities to go out searching.
I'm pulling this on my phone just to see. Maybe it might not pull up when I want it, you know?
Yeah.
Because when you pull it up, I mean, if you look at Muskoka area too, it's just unbelievable. You'll just see tons of forest, tons of water, and then you have this small little area where Justin lived in the trailer, and then it goes to highway, and then you go 10, 15 minutes into Gravenhurst, which is north, and it's another small little town. Was it like 12,000 people or?
I don't even know.
It's like very small. And then, you know, surrounding areas. And then when you head south for an hour and a bit, there's Barrie, Ontario, which is where you go shopping, right?
Yes, well, we have Aurelia before that,
Okay.
which is a very tiny mall. So yes, if you want to go shopping,
The real
go to Barrie.
shopping.
Yeah, the real shopping.
I get that. Okay, so now a lot of people, okay, let's see what else there is here. It's just rolling by. We have, 2,400 people on hanging out tonight. So I didn't tell you that earlier, but now I could tell you. There's quite a few watching, so I do appreciate everyone that's watching tonight. We answered the DNA testing has not come back yet. Kristen said it takes up to 30 days. So the family is waiting on answers. I'm sure every minute seems like a lifetime. Let me see. There's searches have been difficult. The police have asked us not to search. So somebody wanted to know, is it weird that the police don't want the family to form search parties? This is what Kristen spoke to, and you can answer too if you'd like, but this is what you spoke to earlier. From my understanding is that they don't really want anybody to go out searching to protect the integrity of the investigation. Also COVID, there's COVID as well, right? And right around that time, Kristen, was it? Because you said it was just about the lockdown. Was it the 18th that was the lockdown right before? Or was it still kind of, you can't eat out in restaurants and...
No, I think it was the Monday, because the Monday when I got to the house, the officer asked like what me and Jocelyn would usually do together. And I said, usually breakfast, and I said, we went out for breakfast on Saturday because Monday was the lockdown. So it started on the 14th. the lockdown.
Okay. And before were there restrictions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like limited amount of people inside and
No
like
restaurants? Yeah.
No, you could go to restaurants. They weren't closed, but you couldn't have as many people like sitting in.
Okay. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Rita says he sounds like very low victimology. That basically is high risk, low risk. Kristen is what that means. So from the sounds of Justin, really wasn't a high risk type of person. You kind of knew where he was going to be. He let you know where he's going to be. Didn't do anything crazy,
No.
all these
I
types
mean,
of
some people would be like, because he was in his 20s, you're like, oh, a party or something. The parties he went to were like 5-year-old and 6-year-olds parties, like just our little cousins' parties. So, no, he had a very predictable life, I guess. Nothing crazy, as I said, sorry. He told people where he was going. So yeah, just
and very chill.
very chill, low key.
Lindsay says COVID restrictions likely played into the public searching too. Yeah, it's been crazy in Canada, and for a lot of Americans, they're starting to come out of it. Whereas we're going into the lockdown. Like right now, I'm having to homeschool my child for the month of May, so we're going backwards on that. And it's just different right now. So still on lots of lockdowns where a lot of the South, they're starting to open up where we're still, and I think you guys are still you're going on major restrictions, aren't you, in Ontario?
Yeah, we're locked down. My work's still open, but a lot of places are closed again. Like you can't go to restaurants. You can't, they have like the shelves at like Walmart and stuff taped off for things that aren't essential, and yeah, so
Yeah, just locked down more. Kids are all doing from home. No more restaurants. You're allowed to pick up, no food. And I know Ontario and Alberta are almost the same kind of thing where we're kind of going backwards, while some NBC, well, really half of Canada. Now, there's a lot of questions about this being called in for work. So I had put out a video about Bud calling in for Justin to work. You had expressed earlier in the video that Justin, his last day of work that's known is Wednesday coming home in the morning. Do you know about the call coming in for Justin? And has it been confirmed or denied to you?
So through the McKinney camp, that's kind of what we call them. It's been denied through them. We have had a person or an individual from McLaren Press reach out, which they are staying pretty quiet. They don't want the backlash of people, which is completely understandable, that have confirmed that Bud called in for Justin. Now, it's not like I have a phone recording of it, but to what I know, I believe Bud did call in for Justin.
Thank you for that. A lot of people are asking that, so I'm just zipping through here because there's quite a few people talking about it. They're saying that this call was rumor, not rumor, and it's important to know the timeline. Like we've said, something's very peculiar about the days leading up to Justin's disappearance. Right, Kristen?
Yes. Yeah.
You would agree? And no one can verify anything about Justin after Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., other than his close household.
Yes.
But no one else. No texts, no visuals of him, no phone calls, no sightings, and Justin didn't go into work. And he
Yeah.
was supposed to the next night on Wednesday night, which would be the Thursday morning shift from 12 to 8 a.m. and again on Sunday night. So you can imagine how a family would feel when all of these things are starting to piece together. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of questions. And at the end of the day, the truth needs to be said. And at the end of the day, Justin needs to come home. So that's the focus. Let's get Justin home. Let's find out the truth, whatever that is, and lead to Justin coming home. Go ahead, Kristen.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you that yes, like whatever it is, just the lies and the stories and stuff just need to stop. Just the truth.
Yeah, they need to stop.
Yeah.
Louisiana Girl says, not a question, but Kristen, please know Justin is our brother now too. You have done an amazing job representing your brother. Justin is proud.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for the super chats. I know tonight it's been hard to pop these in the chat. My focus is on Kristen and Justin. So, but I appreciate every single one of you hanging out tonight and really hearing the family story and the family side. And I mean, they love Justin. And Justin, I'm going to repeat this, Justin needs to come home. And Shelby says, just want to send Kristen a hug. We won't stop. We will be saying his name.
Thank you. I do appreciate everybody who, not only me, my whole family.
Yeah. Like I said before, you are welcome anytime, and your family anytime on here. Carolina Blue says, Miss Linda, we need Chris' help on this one. I'll talk to you about that, Kristen, a little later on backstage. And so everybody has some similar questions. I know it's hard to read when they come popping through. Do you want to, or do you see any questions in the chat?
I'm not even looking at them.
Okay, so up top there this is probably a good thing, but it's fine. It's good. On the top right, you'll see it's where it says comments.
Yes.
You can click on that, and you can answer anything you'd like.
Okay, I will. I can look at them too. Sorry.
Yes. I know it takes a minute, and
I know there's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people.
I'm shimmying and shifting tonight a little bit. I'm on a different seat you guys aren't used to, but we're good.
I know you look much taller.
I know. And I really am not. I'm only 5 feet tall. This is a good question while you're looking.
Yeah.
People are asking, did neighbors hear or see anything that you know of?
Not that we know of. The police went to the neighbors. I'm pretty sure actually almost every resident in the park and knocked on their door, asked questions. So none that we've been told that they have seen or witnessed anything.
Yes. While you do that, I'm just going to grab your Facebook group
Sure.
and give them that link. Here is the link to their Facebook group, Bring Justin Evans Home. So you could copy that. People are talking about the polygraphs as well. If you'd like to talk anything about that, it's up to you.
The polygraphs, I mean, yeah, the polygraphs, obviously, I don't think in my opinion anyway, I don't think the police just bring people in to waste their resources. They also released a statement saying that they, like in a, her name's Kristen Anthony, did a article, and the police stated that they were bringing in like profilers and people to analyze the lie detectors. So I just, I don't think they'd be bringing these people in for no reason. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that aspect. And they're the only ones that have gone for polygraphs, so you're the ones that they're analyzing. It's just my point, I guess. I don't know if the parents or if it was just the McKinneys, I mean, Bud and Kiara that went in. But we're also, I mean, being told you passed, I don't know. I think that's kind of hard to do when you have to have someone analyze your polygraph. I mean, sure, they could say the polygraph was successful, meaning it worked. It did what we wanted it to do. You don't have to do it again, you know? And police can lie to you. They can tell you if you passed, if they want to tell you they passed.
My husband's been through the polygraph process, not regarding a missing person. He's a paramedic and he was trying out for a specialty team. And so they polygraph test everybody who's involved. And it's a process. And when you're done it then, from my understanding, then passes on to the person who did it, like the polygrapher, I think that's the word you use, and psychologist and all these things, and they run through it. This isn't like wham bam, you're going through a drive-through, you're getting a hamburger and it's done.
Yeah, it's not a true or false bubble question sheet that you just hand off to your partner and they give you a check mark or an X. Like,
yeah, like a 90%, 100%.
Yeah, it's a little different. Just this question I read here, it said, did Bud actually take pictures of the shed and show them at work? Yes, we are like 99% sure. I personally and a couple other members of my family have received the proof of that. They have gotten pictures from Bud showing pictures of the shed at work, and it's been denied, I think, on Kiara's live that Bud would take pictures of the shed. But our very first night there, Bud mentioned that he took pictures of the shed to show his mom. So he had pictures of the shed. And yes, people have reached out to us and sent us proof of. Obviously, we don't want to keep the picture because it is not something we want, but people have reached out to us that prove that he is doing that.
That must have been very
shocking. It was definitely very shocking. And just why would you do that to your friend's memory? Like, this is his memory that people are going to have. And that's what you chose to do with it. I don't know.
It's odd.
It's odd, yes.
Okay. Okay. Shelby's asking, had Bud reached out to your mom at all? And we had talked about that earlier, that he has not.
Yeah, no, other than, as I said, with the sunglasses, he reached out and said that, you know, he bought them from Justin, but other than that, no.
Valerie's asking, do you think Bud's girlfriend was a heavy influence on Bud?
From my point of view, yes. Like, his life in a way is much different. As I pointed out before, he lost his friends. He had Justin, but at the same time, they were becoming less close. Like, they did very little together, I think, other than going to work. So I think he was very influenced into her life, her friend group, her what she approved of, I guess.
I have a question.
Pardon?
I have a question for you. That day on Monday, the day he was reported missing, your mom goes there, you get there, and you said Bud and Kiara were there, right? And because Kiara didn't have much of a liking for you because you were the history, part of history with Bud, what was it like being around them at that point? I mean, you knew that she didn't like you, right? At this point, you kind of knew that she was not.
Yeah.
Was it odd, or were they? Was Bud like, "Oh my gosh, Kristen, we can't find your brother," or was it very like? What was it like?
Very quiet, actually. Kiara didn't really say anything to me. She brought out waters for everybody the one time because we were all crying, and she put waters out on the table, and I said thank you. And yeah, they didn't really say anything else to me personally. Like, they would speak to the police, but no, nothing really brought up to me at all. It was very quiet.
Okay, thank you. That was something I was curious about. Algo says, when was the uncharacteristic text sent?
Saturday, at about, as I said, I think my mom said it was 3:44. Yeah.
And the weather that week too, I just want to go through it. That Monday you said it was blizzarding. The week leading up to that, it kind of got mild, didn't it? Dipped up and down.
Yeah, so it snowed a little bit the weekend Justin was here, and that's why they were on their snowmobiles. But then through the week it warmed up, and then it wasn't till Monday that it started snowing, and I think on the weekend there was some rain. But Monday was the blizzard. The other days, I can't remember what Saturday was like, but I know Sunday was rain.
I think her mom said too it might have been raining.
Yes, because she was going in and out of stores. You're right. She did mention that.
Yeah. It was kind of weird that way because it's kind of like Alberta does too. I mean, even yesterday it snowed the other night, but then it turned into rain, and then it's kind of teetering at that, below zero, and then jumps up and then warms up. And
yeah,
it's a lot more humid there though, isn't it? In Ontario.
Yes, it can get very humid. I wouldn't say yet. It's still pretty like our nights still get pretty cool, and then our days we've had a few really nice days. And like today was sunny, but the wind was cold.
Yeah. What's the temperature right now over there?
That's a very good question.
14?
I think today, I was gonna say, I think today I was sitting at like 13, but on the radio on my way home, they were talking about snow.
Yeah, that's what we're getting. So Americans out there who don't do Celsius, 14 is like 60 degrees. So, and it's May, and right now it's kind of fluctuating between raining and snowing, and it wants to be sunny, a little bit confused. And so same thing in December, it kind of warmed up, not cold enough. Was everything frozen at the time, or it was kind of dipping up and down?
When Justin went missing?
Yeah.
No, nothing was frozen. So, like, because people had actually mentioned that, like, oh, what he went on the ice. There was no ice to go on at the time, and too early in the season. Justin would never go, and all of his fishing gear is here. So, because him and James always went out together, and Justin didn't drive and stuff, so all of his fishing gear was kept at the family house.
And that's the other thing. I keep bringing us back to the timeline, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Justin didn't drive. So if you guys didn't see him and, didn't pick him up that week because, he's at home, you guys are working, he's supposed to be going to work on these few days, you would think somebody would hear somebody come and pick him up if he did go somewhere. And it really is the strangest thing how not one person other than the home he lived with the people in there, no one saw him, heard him, no text, no anything. And so I keep bringing back to that because you would think because you're not driving, well, somebody would have had to pick him up. How do you just vanish?
Yeah, see, that's it too. Like I've said, and I will continue to say, we do not say they did it. We don't. Unless we get 100% confirmed from the police, we will not say, yes, that person did it. But we do blame them for not noticing, for waiting so long to look for him. In Bud's statement, he said that he was surprised when he got to work that he didn't see Justin. Justin drives with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we will forever be mad and blame them for that. The days, the not noticing, it was out of character. So, but again, not saying they did it. It's just they played the part in how long it took for him to be noticed missing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it was even stated on Monday that Bud was getting worried Sunday night when he didn't show up to work, even he was his ride. A question for you, if Bud wasn't able to go to work, let's say he was sick or something in the past, who would drive Justin to work?
He used to have a coworker. I believe his name was Ryan. He doesn't work there anymore, but he used to do it. But then my little sister actually has a friend, and my little sister's friend's grandma works there. So she offered Justin, like, if you can't ever get a ride, she lived, I think, just up the road or something. I don't think she lived in the park, but just like around the park. She's like, if you ever need one, I'm always around. So he had a couple coworkers that were willing to need a ride. He could jump in.
That's so nice. But yet, so that's really nice. But yet, they weren't contacted. But he had called in. Well, we've already talked about that, the call in to work. So the last was Wednesday morning. So we have all of Wednesday, the rest of Wednesday, all of Thursday, all of Friday. Saturday, there's a brief mention possibly about breakfast, an insertion later of 7 a.m. seeing him. We have all day Sunday and then Sunday night. So sorry, all day Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all of Sunday. Sunday night he goes into work, and then day 6 is the call in to authority.
Yeah. So That's what I'm saying. It just, that amount of time not noticing someone. It's not like he was small. He's a 6'3". Justin loved, it's gonna sound weird, water. He chugged water like crazy. You know those kind of people who can put the water bottle up and just like and it'd be gone? He did that. So for him not to come out and eat and drink water and go to the bathroom even, it's just,
Yeah.
first it was, they kind of kept saying, oh, we thought he was at his mom's. But then they went on and said, well, we just thought he was sleeping. Justin already didn't sleep well. Do you think he was sleeping for 5 days? Like, he's not a princess. Okay, he didn't need to be, magically kissed awake. Just, it didn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, just someone asked here. I just thought I'd clarify. They asked if the blood was in Justin's shed or Ken's. It's in Justin's shed. Bud says he's seen Justin in Ken's shed that Saturday morning, but the blood was Justin's shed. Just clarification.
Thank you. Alco says, it's just, how do you fail to report or to notice his absence? And one of the things, I mean, you're used to him every single day. Like you said, he doesn't drive. And if he is tinkering in the shed, and you know that he likes to be in the shed, the natural thought would be go check the shed if you haven't heard from him. Who's his ride, right? And if it would be his ride, it would be you or perhaps a coworker, like you said. And then he had to eat and go to the bathroom, and you would think you would hear somebody pick him up. I mean, you don't just, like I said, you don't just vanish into thin air. So something happened in the shed, and then no one really knows the day. We can only guess as to when he was potentially last seen, and it wasn't even 100% confident by that person. Glenna was the last to see Justin in the shed, his shed.
See him going out to a shed.
Out to his shed.
Yes.
Right. And so that has changed too, just in the last week or two. That it was 8:30 kind of /9. Now it's possibly 9:30. And then the addition at 7 a.m. So I have been looking into that. I'm not going to discuss it today, but I have been looking into the newest timeline. So I will be talking about that in the future. But it is just odd. One of the things that, this is traumatic for everyone. And I will point out that when something like this happens, it very much burns in your brain the times and the dates.
Yes.
Within a certain range, and it's rarely going to stray from that, especially because something's so traumatic. But there's been discrepancies and changes, and especially, this is where I question, and this is my own opinion, how things have changed. But if a person had just given a polygraph and has been saying this storyline for 4 months, how does the timeline all of a sudden change? And especially when a person had just been given a polygraph. So it's a little peculiar in my mind. You don't have to comment on this, Kristen, but this is just me giving my opinion to those who are watching. It's a red flag for me, and I don't understand why it keeps changing, and that's why I don't let go of it. So if you're wondering if I'm bullying or picking on anybody, it's not about that. It's about, here's the timeline. Wait a minute. Why is this different than the beginning? Why is this different now? How come it is? And, whoever this timeline's attached to, I got to look at. And like we've learned, I mean, it starts at the area, it starts at the home, like my buddies over at Profiling Evil and the interview room say, like, we haven't left the house. So that's where I've focused on is the timeline. That's my jam. I look at timelines. I look at why isn't it fitting? Why are there 2 different or 3 different or 4 different stories to this or variations? And look at that. And yes, there's other people that have been the chitter chatter about possibly being involved in some sort of way. And it's not like I'm not looking into it because that's what I do, but I'm not just going to chuck anything up just for the sake of chucking anything up either. The truth is what's important, and that slowly is going to come out. The authorities are working on it. They're working diligently on it. They're trying to find out who this person is that they found or a person had found in the forest in Huntsville, which is about, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about an hour.
From my place, it's about 45 minutes.
Okay. So interesting because it's like, this is me as a map. Here's Barrie, Ontario, down south. You're going to go through Aurelia, and then you're going to get to Kilworthy, where Justin's trailer is, or is located. I shouldn't say Justin's trailer. It's not like he owned it. And then you keep going north. You go through Gravenhurst, and then you get to Huntsville. And it's just east, or this way for you guys, this way, is Huntsville and the area that this body was found. And then you go a little bit more north and could be even a little bit northwest there, and that's where Sprucedale is. So just give you a little idea how the little towns that go through, they're pretty close together, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a jaunt. It's not like a 10-minute hop in your car and you're there type thing. Okay. It has not been confirmed to be anybody at this moment, Tina. We don't know who is found in the forest, and I think there's a few different areas that people have been found, right? I mean, I don't know what's the deal with this area, but it seems like there's quite a few individuals that have been found in the area surrounding this. Would that be a fair statement?
Pardon? Sorry.
The amount of people in the area has been quite a few that have been found deceased.
Yeah, I think there's been, as I said, there's the 2 that were close to Justin, the one that was ruled out, one that's not, the one lady you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then this person. And when the police called, they did say that there was about 5 missing people, I think including Justin. So those are 5 people that they're also looking at. So yeah, we don't have.
Jennifer's asking the other 5 people who went missing, did they go missing the same way? Do you know maybe kind of ish of the circumstances?
I know one was a older man who went missing, and I don't know what. And I think there was a car that was actually burned and the person went missing from it. But I don't know the rest of the details of anything else. That is really just me speculating.
Natural Wonders is lucky to have a determined sister like you, hoping for a good outcome.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we call it? I know it's been quite a few hours. I'm sure it's getting late for you, Kristen. We're almost at 11 p.m., I think, your time.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to
sorry?
do you want to take any more, or do you want to call it a night? Because it's okay either way.
I actually just wanted to, there was one more thing I forgot I wanted to clarify or talk about, but I was going to do it beforehand. It's actually Warren.
Yes.
My other brother, his name's Warren. So you guys kind of know it's Warren, Justin, me, and then Maddie. So there's 4 of us. Warren and Justin about 2 years ago had a falling out. People kind of were bringing him up as a possible suspect because, yeah, they did not get along. So the police did bring Warren in. They talked to him once because they asked us who were some people that, you know, didn't get along with Justin. So obviously one was Warren and the other one was Kiara. They've brought Warren in once, talked to him, and they've never wanted to talk to him again. Him and Justin live in 2 different towns. Really, by driving, it's only 20 minutes, but neither one of them drive. And someone through the rumor mill kind of said, you know, oh, they had an altercation recently. They hadn't seen each other in a year. So there was no altercations. Even it was a family dinner last time they seen each other. And they were cordial. There was no arguing, there was no fighting. It was just, you know, if they didn't have to talk to each other, they didn't talk to each other. So obviously, if the police wanted to talk to Warren again, he would go in, but they have not wanted to talk to him again. And then one other thing I've seen it a couple times. Bud's truck they did not take the truck in. The truck was, I guess, getting at a shop or something. So it wasn't even on the property. It was being worked on, and then they still didn't get it. I think even when they did get it back, it's still not running. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, that was one that I seen kind of popping up a lot.
Yeah. Natasha says, I support you, hun, and things don't add up. I want justice for Justin too. I love you, Kristen.
Thank you.
All right. All right, you guys, if you can stop me, Kristen, if you do see something, but I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, for speaking your truth and your family's truth, for trusting me to having you on. And like I said before, my casa is your casa. So anytime you want to come on here, you are most welcome, or your family members, however it is. And we'll keep doing this. We'll keep looking for Justin. We'll keep looking for the truth and bringing that to light. That always wins the dark, you know? So thank you all for joining us tonight. I will have the number in the description below. Please, if you have something or know something, please check that out. And also, you can remain anonymous as well. And check out the Facebook group, Bring Justin Evans Home. I will put that in the description. And then other than that, my email is itsacrimeandashame@gmail.com. Thank you so much to the moderators. What I'm going to do, Kristen, is I'll end this live stream and then sit tight because you'll be in the backstage and we can have just a quick talk.
Okay, I'd just like to, you know, same thing. Thank you and everybody who watched and shares and helps get Justin's information out there. Really, it's we're unbelievably grateful. Thank you.
We'll keep going. We won't stop. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. We will see you soon. And any updates, I'll be sure to follow up on. Good night.